rush, adrenaline rush now. Adrenaline rush, adrenaline rush now. Adrenaline rush, adrenaline rush now. Adrenaline rush, adrenaline rush now.
Let's do Impact.
I liked Impact. That was it. No. So Bully Ray and Brooke arrive at the building. The invisible interviewer people who always harass the wrestlers are trying to get updated on Hulk's condition. They had nothing to say other than it's bad. Bully Ray came out for a promo.
I got to say something about this show. I know it's a trend in television nowadays, this reality look to the camera, where like you walk into a room, you zoom in, the camera's not steady. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So it's been annoying me for a decade, honestly.
Do you have to hire such shitty camera people?
Yeah.
You zoom in so it's completely unfocused. Then you have to manually focus it, and then you're stumbling around. I mean, really? Yeah, it just really hit me during this show. Like these camera guys are like, they're completely incompetent at their jobs. And I guess that's supposed to bring a sense of reality to the program. I disagree.
Yeah, it brings an air of crappiness to the program. So Bully Ray, they taped the past month. The past month of this show were all taped in a short period of time in England. So this is the first time we've seen him in a few weeks, and he's clearly a Hogan because he's getting pythons. Big arms in this dude. He vowed revenge on the Aces and Eights, mentioned Devon by name, called out Jeff Hardy, who is still world champion. He said that they were going to wrestle for the most prestigious singles title in our industry, which is not true. He said he didn't want the title shot just because he was Hulk's son-in-law. Jeff cut a promo using words such as choosed and clum. Finally said, may the best man win. Didn't address really Ray's concern about whether Ray deserved the shot or not. Bad Influence came out. They were fantastic. Kaz said that Hulk was giving Ray the shot because he needed somebody to tweet tasteless photos of Brooke. Great line. Daniel said a million funny things, including calling Bully Raymond. He compared himself to Luthez. Eventually, a brawl broke out, and Ray issued a challenge for the tag team match for tonight. A fun segment. Sting and Magnus were in Sting's office having a conversation. I didn't really figure out what was going on here until the end of the segment. But Sting is in charge of Team TNA for Lockdown. And so he had a list of names he was considering, and Magnus was campaigning to be on the team. Velvet Sky versus Tara.
Oh.
With Gale on commentary. And Taryn Terrell, the referee. First of all, I think of this link I found earlier. Hopefully it still will bring out the photo. But they did a Q&A session with Taryn Terrell on Twitter. If you go to hashtag AskTaryn, you get a photo of Taryn Terrell using a
Best
computer.
photo ever. Best photo ever.
She looks at the computer the way honestly,
she looks like she's a some sort of scientist that is examining molecules in a microscope.
Yeah, she's very thoughtful here. I just looked at the photo and stopped. I haven't even looked at any of these questions yet. KJ Glow wants to know, was there a particular match that got you interested in wrestling? New Legacy Inc. asks, are you a lizard?
Are you a lizard?
Are you a lizard? 18 Days Left asks, favorite category on Pornhub? All right, I should read the rest of these. Double D asks, do you cut? I shouldn't laugh at that. That's terrible. That's terribly offensive.
He could have meant cut the grass.
I suppose.
Cut corners. Cut in line.
Somebody, let me get a question here. I see Terrence's response. Caleb from Hell asks, why did you pull Gail Kim's arms off the ropes in the four-way match? She'd been doing nothing to to Velvet Sky, who, by the way, Velvet Sky's Twitter is Holler.
Holla.
So that's his question. Why did you pull Gail Kim's arms off the ropes? To which Taryn Terrell replied, she was breaking the rules. I only let rules be broken in the bedroom.
Wow. Which, by the way, what does that mean?
I don't want to know. Maro Sudati asks, did you ruin Drew McIntyre's career?
So hold on a second. She made a comment about breaking the rules in the bedroom, but refused to acknowledge her favorite category on Pornhub?
Apparently, yes.
Oh. Now I'm curious.
Somebody wants to know what her favorite football team is. Will you be competing in match soon? What's been your best moment in wrestling?
She's had a lot of them.
I worship Dolph. That's how this person identifies himself. Asks Taryn Terrell. Think about this now. Of all the questions you could ask Taryn Terrell, what is the best book you have ever read?
Did she answer?
Sadly, no.
It's disappointing.
A lot of people want to know if she's going to wrestle. What's your favorite match that you have refed?
Because you keep track. That match with Velvet and Tara was a good one.
Is TNA coming? I guess that's it. Oh, that was fun. Oh, yeah. New one showed up while I was there. I didn't know you were having a Q&A session. Do you feel nervous when you ref a match? All right. It was the last one. Hang on. I think I just closed a good one here. Why is pizza so evil yet so delicious?
That was asked to Taryn Terrell.
Yeah. To which she replies, Taryn Terrell said, so many calories, yet so many taste bud explosions.
Oh, really?
That's what it says. And then
Give her a taste. So, now, before I get myself in trouble. So, it appears that about 40 questions have been asked, and she answered 2.
Not very many of them.
How about you ask, how fast can you type?
Oh, God. All right, that's enough. So, that's how Taryn Terrell spent her evening before this match. Then the match started and her evening went significantly downhill. I spent a lot of time trying to dissect this finish and what went wrong here. Jesse interfered. Taryn Terrell basically ejected him.
So what happened was he pulled Velvet's leg right in front of the ref. So first, Taryn has to try to get largely out from the inside of the ring to the apron.
Yes.
So
I got to make a note of that here.
First, she tries to go between the top and the middle rope, but then she realizes that she's got legs. So then she goes out from between the top and the middle rope and tries to go underneath the middle and the bottom rope. So she ducks her way through there and finally gets to the outside. And you have never seen someone eject anyone from any sport. I don't watch a lot of baseball, but every now and then I'll see a clip on TV at the gym of some umpire just flipping his lid, and he's having a heart attack. He's red, spit's flying, sweat everywhere. His hair's all matted up. That's nothing compared to what Taryn Terrell did here. She waved her arms, she shook her head, and she pelvis thrusted her hips and screamed and yelled. And right as she's ejecting the guy, which is always a big pop, Velvet is kicked in the back of the head, I believe, or vice versa. Somebody kicked somebody in the back of the head. So you had 2 big spots occurring at the same time. So it was impossible to concentrate on either, and thus, neither spot got over. And then we had the finish.
Yeah, the finish
This sucked.
Was a botched pedigree. And he counted the pin, and that was that. I'm updating my report. I forgot to mention how hard it was for her to get through the ropes. Hang on, everyone.
It was like these ropes were electrified.
It was like they were covered in hot tar, and she was stuck to them.
It's
Or it's like they were a spider's web, and she was the fly.
Yeah.
I would imagine when you're on a fishing vessel and they pull the net out of the sea and there's a dolphin caught in there, Taryn was the dolphin.
Yeah.
Or the tuna, actually. Either way.
Vinny.
It's a fish, Brian. Get your mind out of the gutter. So this match sucked. That's my point. That's what I'm getting at.
Thank you.
Yeah. There's a wacky skit backstage with Austin Aries and Chavo Hernandez. They established that Rude was not there, and they set up Austin versus Hernandez for later. You talked earlier about the shaky cameras they have. They do this several times in Impact, where someone will be walking backstage just in the hallway, and they will ambush them and ask a question. It always seems like a dick move to me, honestly. Well, this ambush interview with Kenny King was so improvised and so unplanned and so off the cuff that it was a 2-camera setup. Incredibly stupid. So he went to confront RVD. He wanted Rob to admit that he was a better wrestler. Rob said, well, I am the champion, and I've beaten you twice, which is awesome. He offered Kenny one more chance tonight, and if Kenny won, he could be champion, and if Rob won, then Kenny had to leave the X Division forever. Austin Aries wrestled Hernandez. Hernandez, I think his entire wrestling career has worn like khaki shorts or cargo pants. He finally got wrestling trunks, and now he looks enormous. He's always been enormous, but he looks even more enormous.
Funny how that works.
Yeah. So Austin Aries is great. I know that's stunning news. He tried to use a belt. It got confiscated. The ref took the belt away, and as the ref's back was turned, Aries hit him with a chain and pinned him, stopping, by the way, to toss the chain into Hernandez's trunks. So even if they were found, he would have an alibi. So Austin gets the win. He's posing the ropes. He's mocking Hernandez's pose. This was awesome.
Austin Aries is fabulous.
We had another meeting with somebody trying to campaign to be on Sting's team at Lockdown. It was Joe Park.
Eating ribs.
Eating a giant thing of ribs. And he's talking about how he wants to be in the team and how he's not a Green Hornet anymore. And Sting asks him, you know what a rib is, right? And Joe hangs his head. And Joe has a moment of shame. He fights through it and admits, yes, Sting, yes, I do. And he moved on, and he was making his case and giving Sting a sales pitch. And in the middle of it, Sting, without saying a word, goes running out of the room to try to recruit Matt Morgan. Morgan said that Sting is a friend of Hulk's. Matt Morgan does not like Hulk. He wants nothing to do with Hulk or any of his friends, and he said no. Kenny King wrestled Rob Van Dam. Todd Kennelly made a Gumby reference. Taz said this is a cartoon from 1992.
I think he said 82.
Either way,
Yeah.
if he said 82, he's only off by 20 years. Gumby is old, everyone. So the idea of the finish was a good one. I'll tell you the idea first. Rob would have the match won. He would go up to the top, but instead of doing a frog splash, he would try to show off and do a 450. And Kenny would move. Rob's arrogance would cost him. He would splat onto the mat, and then Kenny would pin him. That would have been an excellent finish. What happened was, Kenny moved, Rob splatted, Kenny made the cover, and as he was making the cover, Rob's shoulder came up, and Earl Hebner enforced the rules and refused to count.
Yep.
So they
And what happened?
They stared at each other for a while.
Absolutely fell apart.
They grabbed each other's hand. They threw a punch at the same time. They sold at the same time. And finally, Kenny manhandled him up and hit a sloppy version of his finisher for the win. That sucked. Well, what are you going to do?
New champion.
Yeah, that's right. He's the new champion.
Really that hard to figure out what to do when when the finish gets screwed up?
Apparently.
I mean, they were both completely out to lunch. Nobody took charge. Okay, I'm going to do my move now.
Yeah. Angle ran into Sting, looked at his list of names for his team, and said one of them was a huge risk. Aces and Eights all came out. Devon just ran his mouth for a while. Wasn't Taz supposed to be their mouthpiece, by the way?
Yes.
Oh, he's not. Devon still does all the talking. They finally gave Mike Knox a name. Ready? Knox.
Well, Sting was calling him Knox repeatedly a while back.
I guess so.
They must spell it like Knocks or something.
Everyone go to your, if you have a young child who has an art products at home, go to their box of crayons, go to the Crayola crayons, pull out orange, stare at this for a while, observe it. That was the color of Luke Gallows' skin. Comically overdone spray tan.
Let's see how you spell Knox.
You go to the TNA website?
Yeah.
Maybe it's Knocks.
Let's see. Yep, Knox, that's it.
It's just Knox. It took them months to think of this.
The Ace of Nates came out to reveal their lethal lockdown team of Devon, Anderson, Doc, Garrett, and Knox. So they don't have first names, although everyone on the TNA team except Magnus does.
Garrett's a first name.
Last names. I don't know.
All
right, go on.
So Sting brings out his team. It's Samoa Joe, James Storm, and Magnus. And counting himself, that is 4, so there's a 5th man. Anderson has taken the mic. He's demanding to know who Sting's 5th partner is. And Sting says, it's going to be showtime! Anderson says, yeah, we know that's your catchphrase. Who's your partner going to be? And Sting says, it's showtime! And this repeats 3 or 4 times. And finally, who should appear in the ring behind the Aces and Eights but Showtime Eric Young? And a brawl broke out, and the faces cleared the ring, and they all celebrated together. I thought that was clever. I thought that was some legitimately well-written stuff, and it makes sense. Because Eric Young got beat up by the Aces and Eights months ago, and he's back for revenge.
Yeah.
Great. So this is fun. Had our first profile of the Gut Check competitors. The Gut Check women both had incredibly irritating names. First one was Evilise Felez.
Yeah.
Pronounced Evil Ease. So she, according to you, she had been on Tough Enough. I've blocked all memory from that show from my mind. She had done some MMA. They showed her doing mixed martial arts, which is largely just focusing on her ass. She did some stand-up, which you were not a fan of. She talked about not getting along with her mother and crying about this. And then she said she had everything it took to be a star, and she said this in as flat and boring a manner as possible.
Real name is Evilise Velez, but apparently they want to have...
Copyright.
So they've changed to Evilise Felez. Is the idea of like owning the name so that someone doesn't go somewhere else and use the name?
Or something close to it?
Yes. Why? I don't get it. Zima Ion used to be Shima Zion. Now he's Zima Ion. I believe that's how it was. Maybe it was Shima Ion. Anyway, point is, really? So if he goes on the independent scene, no one's going to know who he is?
Yeah.
Because you changed name to something virtually identically the same? I don't know. Maybe I just don't understand the point of this.
Angle was dragging a camera crew around backstage.
And she was on Tough Enough, by the way.
Yeah.
She was blonde at the time, for those of you that don't remember.
The second Gut Check competitor was Lady Tapa. Lady, not L-A-D-Y. L-E-I-apostrophe-D, Lady. That actually made me angry. Is
Well, she's Tongan, Vinny.
that really how they spell it and pronounce it?
Yes. Actually.
If that's legitimate and not just a pun with the word lay,
No, I think that's the actual name.
well, then I'm an idiot. Which is always an option. But it sounds like somebody tried to get creative with the word lay and make a dumb name out of it. So, she's the Barbarian's niece. She also cried a lot because the Barbarian is her uncle, and he trained her, and that meant a lot to her. And they showed her working out a lot. Too much crying on the show. So we had the match, Lady Tapa versus Evilise Felez. They both need to be signed immediately. This was significantly better than Velvet Sky versus Tara earlier on the show. Either Evilise is tiny or Tapa is enormous or both. But there's this giant woman in the ring. She's doing things like...
She's the Barbarian's niece.
Yeah.
What does that tell you?
Well, she's probably pretty big. She's doing things like a one-handed neck-hanging tree and standing upright as Evilise is trying guillotines and sleepers on her. Tapa, besides being enormous, also has natural charisma, and Feliz was doing athletic things like Hurricane Rana's, looked great. And finally, Feliz got the win with a guillotine, choking the monster out. This match was fun, and by all rights, they should both be signed.
Yeah, I thought it was a very fun match. I think there'd be room for... Actually, honest to God, your best bet would be to sign Lady, because at least she's different.
Yeah.
Evilise is another hot girl in TNA. There's a million of them. And Lady Tapa is a great... she's the awesome Kong style big monster. They had a great big person, little person match.
Yeah.
So bring in the monster and have her run through all the women till she gets to Gail Kim. Coincidentally. Anyway, yeah, I enjoyed this.
Austin Aries approached Jeff Hardy backstage, said he was cheering for him. He took a subtle jab at Jeff, saying, Hulk's in Ray's corner. He had a video package on AJ Styles' wife and family and friends. They flew out to Gainesville, or wherever he's from. Spoke to what I assume is his actual wife and his actual friend. And they were talking about how over the past year, all the stuff with Claire Lynch and all the stuff with Cass and Daniels, they never knew where AJ was or if they should trust him. They said he was acting differently. He had not been the same man over the past year as they had known for all their lives, and needed him to be a husband and father again. And his wife got upset and couldn't talk anymore, and his friend was still talking when the interview was interrupted. AJ arrived, came in the room, unshaven, hair undone, looked exactly like Tony Leader. And I know he doesn't listen to these shows, which is a shame. But he saw the cameras, got angry, stormed out, rode off on his giant motorcycle, and that was it.
There's a hilarious picture of him and his hairdo on the TNA website, so check it out.
All right. He had a video recap of Robbie E and Robbie T breaking up. And then Robbie E was in the ring, saying that sometimes a bro had to admit when there was a bigger bro and a better bro. He called Rob Terry down to the ring. He apologized for slapping him, said he was not going to be jealous anymore. He wanted to do one more bro off so Rob Terry could show the people what he could do and give them what they want. So they played the music, and Robbie E did one of the great bad dances you will ever see. Fantastic stuff. And he left the ring, and Terry started fist pumping and flexing, and he was going to dance. When Robbie E returned, he had a giant portrait of himself that he broke over Rob Terry's head.
Bastard.
And he was celebrating and pumping his fist and being a wacky heel. And behind him, Rob Terry is rising like Godzilla coming out of the sea. Fire burning out of his eyes. And finally, Robbie E turned around and saw him and screamed and ran away. I love Robbie E. Robbie E can make everything great. And this is going to be a lot of fun. And then you will have Rob Terry babyface, and that will be the end of him.
If it weren't for like the new movies, Godzilla is an even more dated reference than Gumby.
You may be right. Austin Aries tried to give Bully Ray his support. Ray blew him off, sent him packing. Angle stormed into a building saying he was going to find the aces and eights. And given that like 50 minutes passed before we saw what happened next, this must have been a very large building. Had the main event, Bully Ray and Jeff Hardy versus Bad Influence.
Great match.
It was, of course, very good. It felt way too short. That's probably just because these guys are all really good and they deserve more time. Ray's comeback in particular, and the way Kaz and Daniels were bumming for him was awesome. And
Ray is working on a bad quad.
Yeah. So eventually they pinned Daniels with an electric chair and Hardy senton. And as soon as they got the win, it was to the back. Classic TNA. So it's been like 6 months or whatever the Aces and Eights have been around. And we've only seen footage and videos that they have chosen to release from their secret hideaway where they kidnapped Joe Park and held him captive for weeks. Well, Kurt Angle found it. He found their cave. He went through, he beat everyone up. He found the boss, attacked him, laid him out, threw him down on the ground, tore his mask off. We cannot see the masked person, or the unmasked person. We only saw Kurt saying, "How could you? How could you?" And then the other Aces and Eights guys all showed up to beat him up. So presumably, Kurt will still be kidnapped next week.
He better be, because otherwise he should be tweeting that D'Lo was part of Aces and Eights.
Make one phone call. Hey guys, it's D'Lo.
Should be noted that if you go to the TNA website, the mask guy is in fact listed as the VP.
So there's yet another higher power.
There's a higher power that has not been seen. Yeah. Aces and eights. Eric Bischoff, I'm sure. So anyway, that was the show. I was actually more infuriated when they went to the back after the X title win. I mean, granted, the finish was all screwed up and everything like that. You can't really show a replay. But it was like he won the title, he celebrated for a second, and bam! Never saw him again.
Yeah, that's also true. That's also true. For the record, I searched for LEI''D. I'm seeing things like to receive a lay when arriving in Hawaii. Jokes about best laid plans, laid to rest, laid back gourmet dinner. Things to do in Oahu, get laid. Nothing about a name.
Well,
so I feel better.
We'll soon find out.
Perhaps I'm still wrong, but I feel better.
All right, everybody, we are going. Actually, let's check Wikipedia. See if it says. Let me check Barbarian Wrestling.
Lady Tapa on Twitter.
Let's see. Say anything about his family? I mean, for God's sake, I mean, the barbarian's name is Sione
Yeah.
Vailahi. So Lady is really, he's from Nuku apostrophe Alofa, Tonga.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we've got here. Any other family members? I'm pretty sure that that is not just something that was done to annoy you, Vinny.
I assume everything in this world is done to annoy me.
His wife is named Sione. His youngest son is named Peter. He is uncle to female independent wrestler Lady Tapa. He's related to a bunch of people. I don't know. I don't have a family tree here, Vinny, to check if that's a legitimate name or not. Maybe I'll just ask someone from TNA. Probably the easiest way to do it. All right. To the back! And, Vinny, the floor is yours.
Show opened with a nice memorial graphic for Paul Bearer. So then things promptly got weird. They showed Kurt Angle, as you recall, the end of last week's show. He unmasked the Aces and Eights leader. He cannot believe who it was, and then they promptly jumped him before he could say anything. So, a week has passed, and we wondered perhaps he would be kidnapped. Somehow he would be restrained or beaten so savagely he could not tell anyone who this masked person was. Well, the way they got themselves out of this hole was just that Kurt didn't tell anyone.
Yeah.
Kurt arrived at the building with the mask and said, virtually a quote, "I didn't tell anyone who the masked man was all week."
Yeah.
He proceeded to add that nobody in TNA was safe, not in the Impact Zone or anywhere else. In that case...
Or anywhere else.
That's what he said.
In Antarctica, they wouldn't be safe?
I guess not. Penguins in the Aces and Eights. But if that's the case, then no one is safe. Perhaps you can make them a little bit safer by telling them who might be about to attack them.
I liked how when
the identity of this man.
The man was revealed, D'Lo Brown, of course. Later in the show, when he ran out, we'll get to that. But that would mean that, like, D'Lo got unmasked last week and then proceeded to just go about his life.
Yes.
He came to work.
Yes.
He came to the Impact Zone. He's hung around backstage with the other agents.
Yeah, he did his job.
Yeah, just like nothing had happened.
Yeah.
Wasn't
Kurt
worried
will
about
keep
Angle.
my secret.
Hey, he's probably thinking, man, Kurt hasn't said anything in a week. I'm all right. Maybe he forgot.
He forgot.
This is a great storyline.
Oh, God. Perhaps they Jedi mind tricked him.
I guess so.
You do not know who the masked man is. So after this, Kurt said that even though he had not revealed the leader in the past 7 days, he was going to tonight. All right.
And D'Lo just stuck around in the back.
Yeah.
Just went about his job. Agenting matches here. What the hell is even his job?
That's a great question.
What is like the job of D'Lo and Pat Kenny and and such in storyline? What's their job? They're agents? They give people their finishes? What's their job?
Well, we'll get to that, but apparently it's very important. So Austin Aries came out for a promo. He complained about, I think, literally everyone. His tag team partner, the guys he's feuding with, the guys in the title program. Eventually he called out Jeff and they had a match. There's something about Austin Aries doing other guys' poses that's just extra funny. He did
had a hell of a match.
They had a hell of a match too, but he did Hernandez's crucifix pose last week. He did Jeff Hardy's wacky dance here, and there's something just super funny when he does it. I don't know why, but he needs to keep doing this. So they had a hell of a match. And finally, Hardy's going through his comeback. He hits the stunner, he hits the twist of fate. Then who should hit the ring for the DQ but Matt Morgan and his amazing beard.
It's quite a beard.
It's full credit where it's due. It's an outstanding beard. He hit a carbon footprint of death for the DQ. He beat Jeff up a bit. Aries was gesticulating wildly. They were trying to guess if he was protesting Morgan's presence or happy he was there, and it really wasn't clear. So Morgan was about to kick Hardy's head into the post when Bully Ray ran down with a chain to make the save.
Very much enjoyed this match.
I very much enjoyed the next segment, which was Sting giving his lockdown troops a hell of a pep talk. He went one by one down the list, talked about how great each guy was, how he needed them at their best, all the horrible things Aces and Eights had done to everybody. Then he just started screaming. Yeah, he said, over and over again. And he said, I feel better. I like this. We got a Morgan backstage promo.
There was much better to come with Sting.
Yeah, that is for sure. Morgan cut a backstage promo vowing to run through the entire roster until Hogan gave him what he wanted.
What does he want?
I thought it would be a title shot. Not really sure. But,
well, that'd be a good way to get it. Run through the roster.
Yeah.
Good plan, Matt.
I thought his delivery here was good. We're down on Matt Morgan all the time, so when he does something good, I think it's only fair to point it out.
All right.
It was much better than the next promo. Wes Briscoe.
First off, his hair.
His hair. That's right. So it was like his hair was like, I don't know, Carrot Top or something. It's like it's totally dry.
Not even Carrot Top. It's like if Carrot Top I don't know, if Carrot Top washed his hair and then put on a baseball cap so the top stayed wet and the rest dried.
Yeah. And in fact, not even wash his hair. He wet his hair. And then, like you say, he put on the ball cap and let everything outside the ball cap dry, and everything under the cap stayed wet. So it was plastered down to the top of his head and to the sides of his head, but sticking straight out from the side of his neck.
I've been thinking of growing my hair out again until I saw this promo. Now I'm getting ready to fire up that razor.
Yes. So his very first words were, quote, "My dad and uncle were one of the greatest wrestlers." So we talked about why he wanted to beat Kurt Angle, and then he met Kurt, and Kurt was a dick or something. And Angle came out. He ran down West for a while. They brawled. Out came Simon Diamond, Al Snow, and the one and only D'Lo Brown.
Just came out to do his job.
Yep. So conveniently, Al Snow and Simon Diamond stuck with Kurt, and D'Lo pulled West back. And Kurt was pointing wildly at D'Lo and screaming. Al and Simon just stood there. And finally, Kurt broke free, and D'Lo punted him in the nuts. And then D'Lo and West beat up Al and Simon. They left together. And D'Lo grabbed the mic and said, "Yep, I'm the vice president of Aces and Eights." He was elected, I guess, vice president.
That means there's a president.
I suppose there is. So then we got a D'Lo promo after the break. He was looking into the camera and talking about how he could trust his team with his life. He asked Sting if he could say the same thing. It was a really good promo, but it's 2013, and D'Lo Brown is now a main event heel.
Yes.
And it's not like they didn't. He had been on TV in the past year, generously, I'd say 6 times. None of them memorable. He was just a guy. And
he's a guy now, that's for sure.
Well, that's true. So that's that. We had Devon versus Sting. They were having matches for the man advantage. I thought this match by itself would decide who got the man advantage at Lockdown, but apparently there was a series. I spent a great deal of the show confused. So they're doing this match. It's fine. And they're on the floor and they're brawling. And Sting's beating him up. And then a fan in a flannel shirt reaches across the guardrail, grabs Sting's shoulder, and throws his drink in Sting's face. This distracts Sting. Devon proceeds to grab him, throw him really, really hard into the steel post.
I think Sting gigged, but I'm not sure.
I was certain he had, because on replay, as I noted, you can see him put his hand up. But then when we saw him later, there appeared to be a deep gash running from his eyebrow to his hairline.
It was also live, and when he hit that post, it was like, I mean, there was an audible thump. Maybe he's just a really great worker, and he got me, but I don't know.
He may be. And
one way or the other, he came up gushing blood.
He was not bleeding before he hit the post, and he was very shortly thereafter. So, he hit the post, and Devon threw him in the ring and hit a big boot for the win.
I presume he gigged, actually, also because, I mean, if he would have hit that post as hard as I thought he hit that post, and it gashed him open like that, I don't think he'd just be back there doing promos the rest of the show. You know what I mean? He seemed fine in all those promos.
Yeah.
Aside from the massive amounts of blood gushing everywhere.
There was blood everywhere.
Regardless, this was effective.
True. So we went from that. Oh, by the way, they talked about this fan throwing his drink in Sting's face. No repercussions.
No
follow-up.
About 10 minutes later, I was like, so hold on a second. Are we going to get a follow-up on the fan who accosted Sting and cost him this match and nearly killed him?
Yes.
How about some news?
Nope. Apparently he just sat down and enjoyed the rest of the show.
Oh, they might. I think they got rid of him because I didn't see him again. But one way or the other. What?
The next segment prominently, and I mean prominently, featured Velvet Sky's boobs, and it was still awful. Gail Kim was there. They were talking to each other. They both came off completely unlikable. That was it.
As usual.
So Taz is out as a gut check judge because, of course, he's working for the enemy. So he was fired. So we have 3 judges now. There is Bruce Pritchard, Danny Davis from OVW, and Al Snow's fire red silk smoking jacket.
It was an amazing piece of work.
I was at no point when he was on screen in this jacket was I not in awe. It was astounding. This jacket needs to be in a Hall of Fame of some kind somewhere. All right, so last week we had the Lady Tapa Evilise Fernandez match. I determined that both women deserved contracts, but Evilise had won the match after all. So they met here and they decided to keep the loser and cut the winner. So Evilise left.
I believe this is the second time they did that, actually.
I may have been.
I mean, seriously, shouldn't it be like, the winner stays, the loser goes, and then you do gut check for the winner?
I would think that's how I would do it if I was in charge. But no, they kept Lady Tapa. Although they did tell her that even though they were keeping her, she didn't have a contract yet. Made no sense to me. But the lesson of this is that even in a storyline, even in the fake world of pro wrestling, don't be short. Be tall. Bottom line here is Al's jacket was amazing.
Bottom line is they cut Evilise.
Yeah.
What the hell?
I don't know. Hernandez and Chavo and Velvet Sky versus Bad Influence and Gail Kim. It's actually a very fun 6-man. Every show should have a 6-man. We've talked about this before. Even Velvet's comeback was fine. And then the dudes came back in. They're all hitting big moves. And the best part is that guys are hitting dives out of the ring and flying all over the place. And Taryn Terrell felt like she needed to do something, but she didn't know what to do. So she didn't count anyone. She didn't issue instructions. She didn't order anyone to get in or out of the ring. What she did was march back and forth, waving her hands over her head without bending either her knees or her elbows. Looked as goofy as it sounds. And finally, Gail pinned Velvet with Eat Defeat.
Eat Defeat.
Yeah, that's what it's called. So then after the match, as Gail is arguing with Tara, and even though Gail won this clean, I don't know what she was so pissed about.
Well, she was bragging.
I see. But she was doing that. Bad Influence, who had not even been in the ring for the finish, jumped in front of the two of them to mug for the camera, and their celebration was better than anything that happened actually bell to bell. Sting was very angry backstage. Blood all over the place.
This segment was awesome.
As noted, a deep gash in his head.
I'm not a big fan of cutting yourself and anything like that. But if you do, man,
Get
go
the most
for
out of it.
Don't clean up. Just be caked and covered in dried blood.
Yeah.
And be cutting a wrestling promo like a raging madman.
There was dried blood all over his face. He had done
compelling television.
He had done virtually nothing to clean up at this point. His black shirt with a white picture of himself was stained red with blood. And the first thing we see, he is destroying a steel chair with his baseball bat in fury. He cannot tolerate what has happened.
So how about you find that fucking fan
and beat the fuck out of him?
Hello?
So Joe said he didn't know if he could trust Magnus. Magnus said he didn't know if he could trust Joe. Everyone shouted at each other for a while, and finally Joe and Magnus left. And it was clear they had matches, but it was not clear what else was going on. The road crew hunted down AJ Styles, found him at a dive bar or something. He attacked them and told them to leave. They did.
He's looking pretty squatchy.
As a matter of fact, he was. Doc and Garrett Bischoff versus Samoa Joe and Magnus. The babyfaces were feuding not that long ago, so they didn't get along here.
This actually was a shockingly good match, despite everybody chanting, "You can't wrestle at Garrett."
Yeah.
I enjoyed this match.
Garrett took some very stiff, fake-looking bumps. Like, I'm about to be clotheslined. I will put my arms down at my sides and not move them and now fall down. But the match itself was put together very well. It told a simple and great story, which is the baby faces had their problems because, again, they had been feuding for months. But when the chips were down, they worked together. They broke out all their old double teams, and they got the clean pin with their finish. They were pals again. Awesome.
Great.
They won. Kenny King promo. He basically said he'd won the belt and he was going to fight everyone to keep it. There's one more match to determine the lockdown advantage, and Sting only had two guys left. He had Eric Young or James Storm. Eric went into serious Eric Young mode. Cut a promo about how they had taken everything away from him. He wanted his chance for revenge. Sting said, "Well, that's great. James, go wrestle."
Yeah.
So, sucks to be EY. I suspect he will turn on them and cost them the cage match. Just
God, I hope not.
Yeah, it's very stupid.
God, I hope not.
Very stupid. But that's the impression I got from this segment. Maybe down the road return. I don't know.
Maybe that was the impression you were supposed to get, but nothing will happen.
Well, that'd be stupid. So,
not as stupid as Eric Young turning and costing him the cage match.
That'd be stupid too. So after the judges approved Lady Tapa earlier in the night, we had to learn if they still approved of her or if their minds had changed in the past hour. She cut a promo. First, they asked her to cut a promo, and she did fine.
Aside from going way too long.
Well, she may have gone too long,
She's
but
a little stiff.
Yeah, but I've seen many worse promos than this. And the gist of it was she had come this far with only 2 years of experience. Imagine how great she'd be in the future. So the judges start to talk, and Pritchard begins by acknowledging the death of Paul Bearer, which was nice, but also kind of random here at this, 3/4 of the way through the show.
Well, it was his first appearance on the show.
That's true. It was his first appearance.
Actually, it wasn't. They debated in the back.
It was his first appearance in the ring.
Yes.
The fans chanted, "Rest in peace," which is... Wrestling is weird.
It really is. It was like...
It was the most...
Part of it seemed so tasteless, and then part of it seemed so tasteful.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Exactly. It was simultaneously insulting and full of love at the same time.
It was a chant. It was a loving chant.
Yeah,
but it was weird.
It's just weird.
But Paul Bearer, I don't know this obviously, but I think Paul Bearer would have had a hearty, high pitched laugh if he'd have heard
I would
that.
like to think so.
Yeah.
It's just weird. So anyway, Pritchard voted no. Dana Davis voted yes. So then Tapa had to kick out, as they like to say. So she cut the exact same promo she had before, almost word for word. And finally, it came down to Al Snow and his amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. He voted yes, so Lady Tapa got her contract.
Her second promo was no good. It was like a repeat of the first one and not as good.
Yeah.
And as soon as she's done, Bruce Pritchard leans over and whispers something to Al. And I thought for sure it was call an audible, say no. But they said yes. She got a contract and Evilise. Done.
Yeah.
For the moment, I'm sure.
Robbie E. cut a promo on Rob Terry saying he would never be on the list again.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Mr. Anderson versus James Storm. It said Anderson was a 2-time world champion. I remember one of those because it was a big pay-per-view finish they've been building up to, and I remember it came off, I don't remember the specifics, but it came off like a big moment, and then like a month later he was just another guy. The other one I had completely forgotten. I had to look it up, and apparently he beat Sting on the undercard of a Kurt Angle versus Jeff Jarrett main event. So there you go. TNA, everybody. Match was fine. A lot of fun. Storm was running wild, and finally the entire Aces and Eights guys came down to ringside.
And James Storm, like a goddamn idiot, looks right over at him and gets beat.
Yep. Sting's team came out to stop them from interfering, but then Storm was distracted anyway. He turned around and he ate the mic check for the win. So Aces
Nothing
and
like
Eights,
an idiot babyface.
You know, Aces and Eights get the win. They have the man advantage in lockdown. I hope that's not a spoiler for anyone. Heel's going to get the extra man.
Like, why? I don't know. They were coming down to the ring, so, like, hit your super kick, dude. Because if they hit the ring, you win.
That's true.
So either win or win. Don't walk over there like a complete moron and look at him, and then you get hit with your move. You look like an idiot. Bad finish.
And then it was time for Bully Ray and Jeff Hardy to have their face-to-face go-home segment. They kissed each other's ass for a long time. Talked about how proud they were of each other. Ray finally took it somewhere and said, I am not proud of myself. I can never be proud of myself until I beat you to become the world champion. Then I'll be proud of myself. Hulk came out on crutches. Said these two were the best of the best. And started talking about how this little company was getting ready to take the next step.
Christ, again?
Nothing better than
11 years now.
disparaging your own product. Someday, Hulk was saying, will be quality. But not just yet. So Ray and Jeff shook hands again, and the Aces and Eights attacked, and Sting's team returned, and they had a brawl, and that was it.
That was it.
I don't know.
I actually thought it was a pretty good go-home show.
There was some fun wrestling on here.
By TNA go-home show standards, which are usually horrendous,
That's
this was actually
say.
pretty good.
The
Built up all the matches. Gave you reasons for them taking place.
Yeah.
Kind of made you interested in some ways.
Sure.
I think that the Bully's turning. I don't know for sure. I hope he does. I don't know if he'll join Aces and Eights. Obviously, everyone's like,
All right, here's my prediction.
this will make no sense if he joins Aces and Eights, but it will because I seem to recall like early on with like Doc, guys had to take a beating to get into the club. And all Bully has to do is talk about, you don't know how many beatings I had to take to win this world title. And they all cackled and laugh and high five.
I see.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
You had to do your hazing. You had to take your beatings.
I think Ray will win the title at the pay-per-view. It'll be shady. It won't be a clear-cut heel turn. And then he'll do the heel turn on Impact next week.
Of course.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I think it makes... There are a lot of things in wrestling that don't make sense, but I can live with the idea that Bully Ray, in order to get this title shot, he took a beating from his own men. He screwed Brooke and simultaneously screwed Hulk Hogan and kissed his ass into this title match and then diabolically wins the belt. I can live with that. That makes sense to me. Plus, I just want to see Bully Ray get the title.
That's abundantly clear.
I mean,
yeah. I
the belt
agree
means
with
what the belt means in 2013, but goddamn, if anyone deserves to get that title this year, it's this man.
That's correct.
So, yeah, that's my prediction. I think it'll be an all right show. I am somewhat looking forward to Lockdown. So that's an improvement over many previous TNA pay-per-views, including the last one. To the back! All right, no time to waste.
Raw or the TNA?
We're going in order as always.
So TNA. Lockdown was in San Antonio before the biggest crowd ever. It looked really cool. And the entrance ramp and the stage and the lighting and everything looked, I would go so far as to say it looked major league. Zema Ion versus Christian York versus Kenny King in an X Division 3-way.
Not as bad as the Caitlyn match, but almost as deadly.
It was much better, but it was actually far scarier. There was one very scary spot in the Caitlyn match. There were like 8 in this one. The one that comes immediately to mind, Kenny King tried to do a cabrata off of one guy's back. They hung him on the ropes, and he tried to jump off his back and do a backflip to the outside. And what happened was instead of rotating 360 degrees, he rotated about 30 and went flying back of his neck first into the guardrail.
What a stupid idea.
Yeah. So they follow that. The very next thing that happened after Kenny King was flying backwards neck first into the guardrail, the next thing that happens is Zema Ion, who has already broken one man's neck, came off the top rope with a diving, twisting splash. Very scary. He did a bunch of more stuff. A powerbomb, SOS slam. They hit a bunch of moves, and finally King hit one of those moves where you can't tell who gets hurt until one guy just gets up and is not selling. And that was enough to pin Christian York. So he won. Crowd ate it up. It was good for a spot fest, except for the part where everyone almost died. Jeremy Borash interviewed Joe Park. He's going to talk about his match with Joey Ryan tonight, which was in fact on pay-per-view. Joe Park versus Joey Ryan.
On pay-per-view.
Bad Influence showed up. They tricked Joe into leaving, and then they cut a great promo. Cass was his usual goofy stuff, and Daniels suddenly got very intense about how they like to have fun, but the belt's the most important things in the world. We're the best tag team in the business, and we're going to win them back, and it was awesome. He got a great promo. I didn't. I didn't write it down.
It was good.
It's been 3 days.
Good work.
Joe Park versus Joey Ryan.
Great!
This is like a match between my favorite wrestler in the world and my most hated wrestler in the world. And fortunately, the guy I like best, he overwhelmed the negativity of the other guy. And it turned out to be pretty good.
It's just a fun pro wrestling match. I don't know. If you don't like this match, I don't know what to tell you. This was a fun match. It was Joe Park versus Joey Ryan. Joe Park won. Good. I don't know. What's wrong with liking a fun match? Nothing. Let's all be positive around here.
There's lots of body oil spots and chest hair pulling. And Keneally, or is Keneally, right?
Keneally.
I always want to call him Keneally. Keneally, throughout the show, when guys would do a wacky move, he would call it by the wacky move name. Like Christian York has a move called the Mood Swing. And Park, when he missed the splash, Keneally says, he missed the closing argument. And Taz cut him off and said, he missed a splash. Finish was awesome. I will concede that. Joey Ryan goes for a sunset flip, and Joe Park fights and fights and fights, and he keeps his balance, and then he holds up a finger as if to say, Eureka! I have an idea. And then he sat down on Joey Ryan's chest.
I interpret it as the guy went for a sunset flip, and he realized, I need to swing my arms wildly or I will fall down. And then he realized, wait, I am nearly 400 pounds. I am not off balance at all. I'm going to stop flailing my arms.
Yeah.
I'm going to stand here, and then I'm going to sit on the guy.
Either way.
Great.
Either way. And he sat on the guy in the rough count of 3, and Joe Park won, and then he threw his classic celebration. Brooke Hogan tried to give Bully Ray a pep talk backstage. Bully was still nervous. Hulk arrived and asked Brooke to leave, and he had a lot to say to Bully. First of all, first thing he said was stupid. When he said Jeff had taken the company as far as he could, but if the company was going to grow, they needed a new champion. He actually said this.
Yeah, it could have been a little better.
Which is stupid for about 800 reasons. Then it got awesome. He said Ray had something special. He had unlimited potential. Said Ray was family. He loved him like a son. He was jealous because he couldn't wrestle himself, but he had a chance to live through Ray. Win or lose, he said, make sure they remember you as long as they live. And Ray promised when the night was done, everyone was going to remember him. And it was a great segment. Hogan's promo was fabulous, and Ray's just his subtle reaction at the very end, just foreshadowing doom, was fantastic. A+ segment.
This was the best Hogan. I can't even remember the last time Hogan was this good. This was awesome. I love this show because, like, the last couple of months. Actually, I believe that the end of this show, they'd been planning for nearly a year. Like, they got an idea a year ago, a little less than a year ago. They started going, and they just went all the way through to the end. And yes, I'm not even saying, like, Aces and Eights is, like, a great storyline right now, but god damn, I hated that storyline for a long time. But they just didn't give up. They just kept going. They kept going. They kept going. And all the pieces are falling together. You got some problems here and there, but Jesus Christ. In an 8-month storyline, if you've got 4 logic holes, that's still better than back in the day when you had 10 logic holes every week. So, yeah, I thought Hogan, this was great foreshadowing of main event doom. Yes. I loved this.
Gail Kim versus Velvet Sky.
I did not love this.
This went unloved. Actually, you know what? The match was whatever. Who cares? The only thing that was important was the finish and the angle at the end.
Yeah, Taryn was awesome.
Yeah. So Gail has been mad at Taryn Terrell forever, which is totally just justifiable. So at the end, she goes to hit. She hits Eat Defeat, and she goes to count. Makes a cover, and Taryn Terrell goes to count, but Velvet kicks out. So Gail is pissed. She starts intimidating Taryn Terrell. She backs her up into the corner. Finally, she hauls off and slaps her and says, "Go ahead, disqualify me. I dare you all to get another title match." And Taryn just freezes. And then Gail turns around, and Taryn was about to call for the DQ, but she changed her mind and thought better of it. And then Gail turned around, and Taryn hit a big spear. She started bouncing Gail's head off the mat. And Gail stumbled to her feet, and suddenly Velvet reappeared and hit the pedigree for the win. And yes, Taryn was awesome here.
Usually when you've got an angle like this, if you did the angle in WWE and you did the angle in TNA, in WWE it would, like, work. And in TNA, everybody would be bumbling around. They'd miss their spot. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Happens all the time. But not this one. Not this one. And it involved Taryn Terrell, of all people.
Yeah.
They entrusted her to do this, and she pulled it off perfectly. So, way to go, Taryn! And Gail was awesome, too. And Velvet Sky is miserable in the ring.
Well, that's true. Robbie E. cut a promo backstage. He's making fun of Rob Terry and Texans to make sure he got booed.
A great promo.
And then what was even better, the video package that followed this, recapping the story of Robbie E. and Robbie T., this was seriously my favorite video package of the year until Raw, when they finally had a better one. But it was all full of sentimental music, like they were actually brothers, and auto-tune was involved, and told the story of how they came together and they were pals, but then Robbie E. was jealous, and he couldn't hold Robbie T. down any longer, so he stabbed him in the back, and now Robbie T. was going for revenge. This was great. And then they had the match. It was bad. It was a bad match.
It was not as bad.
It was significantly better than Caitlyn and Tamina from SmackDown. Like, miles better. If you've ever seen Bugs Bunny versus the Crusher from the cartoons, this is a bad ripoff of that. Just a small man running into a large man and falling down and trying various holds that wouldn't work because the guy's too big. And then finally, Robbie T. won with a fireman's carry into a spine buster. And I will just read this sentence from my notes here. I cannot, in good conscience, call this a good match, but it sure was entertaining.
Oh, yeah, it was fun.
This was entertaining crap.
But it was bad.
It was bad. Austin Aries cut a promo. Noted Bobby Roode had not been seen in 2 weeks. Said he did not need Roode to defend the titles. He could defeat all 4 men by himself. And he said that would not be necessary, and Roode walked up and smiled and said, "Miss me." Chavo Hernandez versus Bad Influence versus Roode and Aries. It was the best match in the show. The Mexicans ran wild forever. Finally got the heat on Chavo. And it must be said that even in San Antonio, Chavo and Hernandez were not that over. Like, even when Chavo rolled off about 14 of the rolling suplexes in a row, there was not one single chant for Eddie, which is actually kind of sad.
Yeah.
But so the first heel team got the heat on Chavo, and then the second team cut the first heel team off, but they all still had the heat on Chavo. Finally, Hernandez got the hot tag. He ran wild on all four heels, and they mixed it up. So instead of like running wild on Bad Influence and then on Rudinaries, they paired off. So he's beating up one guy from each team at a time, and then both those guys dumped out of the ring, and he beat up the other two. Did all kinds of power spots, like a double backbreaker on Aries and Kaz at the same time. He hit a big dive off the ramp that the camera nearly missed. And finally, Chavo was going for the frog splash on Daniels, I think. As he's in midair, Rude tags him in the foot, so he is legal and Chavo is not. So now Chavo can't get the pin. Aries hits the ring and throws Chavo out. Rude dives on top for the pin and got the win to win the match and keep the titles. A fun match, and I hope these three teams just keep feuding.
Yeah. I was sad that Chavo and Hernandez were added to the match, but what can you do? At least Bobby Roode showed up. I still don't know exactly what happened there. I wrote about it in the newsletter this week. I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know what happened. Like, the story is that Bobby Roode's contract expired, and they didn't realize it, which I can't believe that. Something obviously happened. I don't know. I'd been under the impression that his contract had a long time left, and I would think that if his contract actually expired, he would have tried to go to WWE. So my guess is that it's probably something involving dates. Like, over the course of a year, he had 100 dates, and he passes 100 and nobody noticed, and they didn't take the title off him before renegotiating. I don't know what happened, but I do know that they really screwed up on his contract, and it was Bruce Pritchard's fault, and now he's back, and presumably it's all fine because he retained the titles. But the more things change, everybody.
Still TNA.
Still TNA.
Borash interviewed Taryn Terrell backstage. Before much could happen, Gale attacked her from behind, and Al Snow and some other geeks separated them. We had D'Lo giving the Aces and Eights a pep talk. He thanked Devon for winning. He won them access to the building. Doesn't D'Lo work in management? Couldn't he have let them in whenever he wanted?
Well, yeah.
Angle got a promo on the Aces and Eights, and Wes Briscoe in particular. He vowed to give the youngster an ass whooping. Kurt Angle versus Wes Briscoe.
You know what I am kind of a little disappointed about? Is that after they revealed D'Lo, they should have had like a big video package talking about various things, like when Al Snow disappeared and D'Lo took a spot and gave Wes Briscoe the contract.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was obviously that was part of the storyline. So
They could have just, well, yeah.
It was a payoff for me because I knew what the hell was going on, but for everybody else watching at home, how about we have a video package reminding them of what happened?
Or even just saying, hey, D'Lo Brown has worked here for years.
Sure.
He's been on television significantly less than a dozen times. Maybe a half dozen. So we had Kurt Angle and Wes Briscoe. The very first spot, Kurt hit a double leg takedown and nearly killed him. So the match was pretty basic. It was fine. Briscoe didn't do much on offense except choking and hitting like shoulder butts in the corner and stuff. So Briscoe tried to go at the door, but Angle got the ankle lock. And then they brought on the top rope. Oh, that's right. There was the terrifying spot where Kurt Angle hit a German suplex off the top rope. Terrifying. West ducked a clothesline, and Angle hit the ref, and young Hebner took the best bump, maybe the entire show, just doing the perfect somersault bump for a clothesline. So Angle got the ankle lock, no ref. He hit the angle slam, walked out the door, shut it behind him, walking around on the ramp. And I know we see refs miss falls all the time and miss tap outs all the time, and there's no instant replay and all this, but this was just, I couldn't take this. I could not suspend my disbelief enough for this. That this victory would not be overturned. But he's out there walking around on the ramp, and D'Lo runs out from behind, tosses him into the cage, the closed cage door. Then he opens the door, throws Kurt inside, drags Wes out, and the ref sees Wes outside and declares him the winner. And Kennedy said, "What a load of bull." And that's about sums up how I feel.
I thought it was a good match. Kurt Angle, he got a good match out of Wes Briscoe. A miracle. That's a miracle. Finish was what it was. That's a good match, though.
It was fine. Lethal Lockdown. The 5 dudes from Aces and Eights versus the 5 guys on Sting's team. So Sting's the last guy in. Let's cut to the chase.
Nothing happened up to that point.
Not that much happened. It actually I was very, very, very annoyed because, the formula is you have a babyface beat up a heel for the entire time until the heels get a man advantage. So now they can beat him up 2-on-1. And then every time anyone hits the cage, they make a big comeback, and it's, simple. So the very first thing they do is the first period is totally back and forth, and it actually ended with a double down. So Knox hit the ring, and he wasn't even there to save Anderson because Anderson was doing okay. He had fought Magnus to a standstill. But after that, they settled down, and every time a guy came in, he made his comeback, so it was all right. So Sting comes in. He's got a bunch of weapons. And as he gets in the ring, his guys have all won the mini battles and mini brawls they've been having. So they're all standing around as Sting passes out weapons. They decide what they want to use, and the Aces and Eights are lying down. And this is before he's even gotten in the ring. These invaders are so impotent. They are so not threatening. So they all hit him with weapon shots for a while. Far too long, frankly. Taz, who, by the way, in this blood feud match with his gang fighting the other corporation, he was taking the whole thing completely unseriously, making jokes constantly. Although he did ask a great question about 4 minutes into this when he said, "Have we done anything offensive here?" The answer was no. It got old quickly. I was begging for them to make a pin. There were a handful of fans chanting this was awesome, but they were wrong. Several hours went by. The Aces and Eights made a comeback, like babyfaces. A bunch of random stuff happened. They did an impossibly stupid 6-man stacked up superplex spot. It somehow came off almost perfectly.
The 2 on this show came off perfect. It was
this
a
one
miracle.
in particular, though.
This one I thought for sure someone would die.
Because, for many reasons. First of all, it was 6 dudes going from the bottom of the mat to the top of the cage. One of them was Garrett Bischoff. And just with that much chaos going on, with all the other dudes in the ring, too, by the way, there was so many things that could have gone wrong here. And I think it was of the 6 dudes who landed, 5 of them landed perfectly. One guy landed on his partner, which sucks. Everyone else took a perfectly safe, flat back
But even
bump.
that guy, the guy that fell on his partner, they were at the very, very bottom.
True.
So it was like they were standing on the mat, and one guy kind of fell on the other guy. So it was totally fine.
Yeah.
Garrett Bischoff was the one that was like, he was at the very top, like his guts. He was hanging over the stage. So his body was on one side, his legs were hanging out of the cage, and he had to go from there 6 stories up on men's shoulders. Yeah, I said 6 stories. And fall correctly. And I don't know how they pulled this off, but they did.
Don't ever do this again, anyone ever. So the babyfaces finally run wild, and they're hitting a bunch of moves, and Eric Young, the whole gimmick was that he was the comedy goof who they questioned whether he'd be good enough to make the team.
He was still a comedy goof. He wrestled in his underwear.
That's true. He came out.
Hated that.
He came out on the ramp, and rather than run down in the cage and start beating ass, the first thing he did was to take off his wrestling trunks or shorts and do a wacky dance in his underwear. And when he finally got there, Tenay said, "This is a more serious Eric Young." No, it's not. It's the same goofball. But this time, when he went to the top, he went up for his elbow smash, but Sting stopped him and said, No, go to the top of the cage. At which point I thought Eric should have climbed back down instead. But no, he climbed to the top of the cage. He hit the top of the cage elbow smash onto Doc for the pin. So TNA gets the big win, and it's such a big win that they're just going to keep on feuding. Overall, the match was fun.
Well, the whole idea was that it's the end of Aces and Eights.
Yeah.
And then they have their
I guess that is true. They needed to what's the word? They needed to
This was like the horror movie where you think you killed the villain.
That's what I was
and
trying
then
to
he
get
comes
to
back.
with Frankenstein or Freddy or something.
Sure.
Yeah. Bully Ray versus Jeff Hardy. That match was fine. There It was good, but we've seen much better from both guys in this company in main events, and in fact, I didn't even bother to give it a star rating, so I don't know what to tell you. The only memorable spot, unfortunately, was when Bully Ray. I don't
3.25 stars.
That sounds about right. Bully Ray hit a top rope power bomb, a top rope sit down power bomb, and it was initially reported that Hardy got a concussion.
Apparently he's fine.
I would debate the use of the word fine.
Apparently he did not have a concussion.
He's unconcussed. It's certainly not fine. So that was the last real spot of the match. They did a bit in the middle where Garrett and West tried to interfere, but
I got to say something real quick, actually, about Jeff Hardy.
All right.
I realize that they've got professional. Well, actually, I don't know what they did for Jeff Hardy, but I know that WWE has that impact testing. And I'm not a medical doctor, but I've got a head. And I think that if you take a fall and you think you got a concussion, you know what I mean?
You probably did.
If you take the test and they go, no, you didn't suffer a concussion, to me, you probably still shouldn't do anything for a while. Because if you hit your head so goddamn hard that you thought you got a concussion, then I guarantee that you rattled your brain. I don't care what the impact testing says. I don't care if you vomited or not. I don't care if you've got a pupil dilated. I don't care if you've got any of the traditional concussion symptoms. If you hit your head so hard that you think you got a concussion, then you should probably take a mandatory week off or so. That's my thought. Just common sense. I know that someday it'll come out that, that probably is what you should do. And I'm going to have to hear people say, well, we never knew that if you hit your head that hard, even if the thing didn't say you officially had a concussion, you should probably keep your head safe. Just like, today I hear people go, oh, those guys in ECW, they took all these hard chair shots to the head, but nobody understood concussions back in the 90s. And it's like, oh, really, fool? Yeah, they did. They've known about pugilism, dementia, or whatever you call it since
punch drunk is the term.
Since whatever the Latin terminology is, but I mean, they were writing about that in fucking 1910.
Yeah.
So don't tell me that people didn't know that it wasn't good to get hit in the head in the fucking 1990s. So anyway, if you fall off in wrestling, the top rope, you get suplexed, you land on your head. If your head hurts and you think you got a concussion, then stop. I don't care what the test says. That's all I'm saying.
So they did a spot in the middle where Garrett and West tried to interfere, but Hardy and Ray worked together to eliminate them and continue their match. And in storyline, it kind of makes no sense unless Ray really, really wanted to lure Hogan down to ringside later. But it's just one of those things. It's wrestling, and by the end, no one cared. So right after the powerbomb spot, Aces and Eights come out again. Hogan and Brooke had made their way down to ringside by this time. Hogan on crutches, Brooke right next to him. So they surround the ring, and they're coming over the cage, and Hardy and Ray stand back to back. And Ray passes Hardy a chain to defend himself. And then they go back to back again, and Ray is looking right at his brother Devon, literally his brother, and the man who he spent the first 2 decades of his career with, and now hated rivals. And then suddenly Devon smiles at him, and he tosses him a great big hammer. And Ray takes the hammer, and he turns stone-faced and points at the Hogans. He wallops Jeff in the back of the neck, and he pins him to win the world title. He is a bad guy, it turns out.
Shocking.
Hogan is just screaming no on the floor. No! Brooke was shrieking at Ray and grabbing the cage and shaking it. Ray went over and told her she was nothing, called Hulk an old man. Ray cut a promo saying they should let the stupid bitch cry. Said he had used Hulk, screwed Brooke, fooled everyone, declared himself the president of the Aces and Eights and the world champion. Fans began to pelt the cage with garbage, including the aluminum beer bottles that sounded really cool smashing off the cage. This is a fantastic angle.
I got a couple of things to say about this angle.
One of the best things they've done, and best angles TNA has ever done, and as a result of the heel turn and the title change, they suddenly have like a half dozen pay-per-view main events lined up they could easily do. Giant thumbs up for the end.
What pay-per-view main events do they have, just out of
They
curiosity?
could do Ray versus Hardy in a rematch. They could do Ray versus Sting. They could do Ray versus James Storm, but give him some wins because he could do that again. You could do Bully Ray versus Samoa Joe. They could do Bully Ray versus Kurt Angle.
So basically, against all the baby faces.
Yes.
I see. First off, I thought this angle was awesome. You knew it was coming. That kind of actually even made it better because it all made sense. I know that there was obviously the complaint about Briscoe and Bischoff running in and attacking Bully and that sort of thing, but they did run in right when Jeff was going to get a win. So it did. They did run in at the right time for this to make sense. Them attacking Bully and him beating them up. You got to take a beating for the team. You know, I can at least make logical sense out of it in my own mind. I would have preferred if they didn't do that. They didn't need that. That was kind of a swerve for the sake of a swerve. But hey, things happen. The two things. I actually don't know if I would do this or not. I'd have to really think about it. I was expecting that when Bully hit Jeff with the hammer and got the pin and raised the belt up, that Hogan on the outside would be freaking out and he would turn and he would look at Brooke and go, "My God, what has happened? Why has Bully forsaken me?" And then she would pull out the hairspray and spray him right in the eyes. And Hogan would go down, she'd get in the ring, and her and Bully would hug, and she'd turn heel as well. I was 100% expecting that to happen. I actually, upon further reflection, I don't know if I would have done that because this angle is not about Brooke. The angle and the finish was all about Bully Ray. And I think that people would have been very upset, the Hogans making it all about themselves. So I'm glad they didn't do that. But that is what I was expecting them to do, and I could still see that visual in my head. And, yeah, I thought it was great. I thought everybody played their roles perfectly. I know that I talked to people that were there, not Ed. Someone else that was there emailed me, a fan, and just said monstrous heat. Monstrous heat for Bully Ray in this angle. And, hey, you know, if it works to the fan base, if they're into it, then more power to them. So this was a really good angle. I had one other thought about it, but I forget what it was. I can't remember. Bully Ray is champion.
He deserves it.
He deserves it. If any man deserves to win the title in 2013, it is Bully Ray. So we'll see where it goes. Oh, the other thing I was going to think. I am absolutely 100% not a fan of wrestlers calling women bitches. I hate that. But I will say, I'm not even condoning it, but the idea, obviously, was that was part of the big heat spot. Bully calls Brooke a bitch. And the fact that as soon as they got rid of Vince Russo, if you go back, the moment they got rid of Vince Russo, all of the women calling each other bitches and whores and this and that, it all disappeared from television. And I mean, that was one of when they transitioned in the new writing crew and Russo was out of there. That was like a big thing they did. No more women calling each other bitches. No more calling women whores, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And as a result, here we are a year later, and Bully Ray, after his big championship win, screwing the Hogans, he calls her a bitch. And I wouldn't have done it. I'm not a big fan of it, but by God, it had impact because they don't do it on every fucking show. So anyway, just wanted to throw that out there as well. So there you go. Good show. To the back. Let's get going here. Let's move on to the Impact Television show on a entirely different note in the Impact Television show.
There's no Pope on the show.
No Pope. So let's get going.
They were in Chicago for the first Impact on the road. It looked amazing. They should have left that Impact zone years ago. There was a sign someone held up saying they needed to bring back Evil Ease. Couldn't see if it was Dave, but I presume it was. It was supposed to be Rude and Aries versus Chavo Hernandez in the opener, but the Mexicans came out and the Aces and Eights ran them down and destroyed them. Devon introduced Bully Ray, who came out through the crowd with Aces and Eights music playing, dressed like them with jeans and a leather jacket and the skull cap. He bragged about how he and his gang had fooled all the fans for 9 months. He explained that Weston Garrett had interfered in the cage match because that had been their plan, and that was supposed to be the finish. That was supposed to be when he won. But then earlier in the night, he had a talk with Hulk, and Hulk told him he needed to do something memorable. So Bully had called an audible, and Devon had caught on. And they had plan B was the hammer and all that.
Wow.
So that explains why Weston Garrett came in. He dared Hulk to come fire them, but Hulk never appeared.
They tried.
They tried.
They tried.
So it's not bad, actually.
No, it's fine.
It's better than anything I could have come up with. So,
but the question remains, if that's the case, why, after his speech with Hogan, didn't he just come up with a new plan? Why do you have to wait all the way to the cage to call an audible?
Perhaps he...
I don't have a problem with it. I'm glad they came up with something.
Yeah. So Sting was watching backstage, flipping out, saying Ray was digging a grave for the company and Sting needed to talk to Hulk.
I got to say about Aces and Eights, one thing I really like about the group is the fact that, with the exception of Garrett and perhaps Mr. Anderson, depending on what you find attractive in a man, it's a group of ugly, mean dudes. You know what I mean? That's a heel group.
Well, there's a lot of beards, a lot of bald men.
A bunch of ugly, mean-looking dudes.
None of them are particularly ripped.
That's a heel group. I like it. That's old school.
It is old school.
You know, there's a reason they were called baby faces.
Yes.
Because the clean-shaven, pretty guys were the good guys, and the big, ugly lungers were the bad guys.
Yes. Gail and Tara versus Mickey and Velvet. We had an inset promo from Gail offering her condolences to Brooke for her heartbreak at the pay-per-view, and at the same time thanking her for putting Tara and Terrell on probation. So, by the way, they were in Chicago, and Tara pulled the CM Punk card of wearing Chicago flag colors on her gear. So Tara was on probation. And Gail thus had no problem talking shit to her and was physically intimidating her and even pie-faced her at one point. But then Taryn fired back and shoved her down, and everyone hit a move, and Velvet pinned Tara with a pedigree. And it was short. It was pretty bad, but the crowd loved it.
You know, I'm going to give a spoiler for next week. But another thing I like about TNA of late is that maybe like a lot of people don't like this, but I like it. So I really don't care if you don't like it. This is everyone's opinion, right?
Right.
I like the idea that during this Taryn Terrell, Gail Kim thing, they announce, first they have all their problems, then Taryn attacks her at the pay-per-view, then they announce that Taryn is on probation, and then Gail attacks her and causes her to snap again in this match. And as I'm watching it, I'm thinking, well, I know what's going to happen. Taryn is going to get fired as a referee because she broke her probation, and then they're going to immediately hire her as a wrestler, and then she's going to kick Gail Kim's ass. Well, you'll never guess what they do next week on television. Gail complains to Brooke about Taryn, says she should be fired, and Brooke says, you're right. Taryn, you're fired as a referee. You're now immediately hired as a wrestler. And now they're going to have a wrestling feud. Great!
Yes.
Wow! An angle that makes sense. I don't have any problem where when I watch the television, I'm like, okay, I think I know where this is going. And then it ends up going there. That means it makes sense. It's okay to have a swerve every now and then if the swerve actually makes sense. I don't like swerves for the sake of swerves and bullshit happening for no good reason. But this storyline is going exactly as one would presume. And I'm happy about that. I'm very happy about that. I don't know if the match will be any good, but happy with the progression. And I'll be sad to not see Taryn in her tight black tights every week on television.
Oh, I think she's going to be resting in sweatpants?
Well, she's not going to be there every week.
That's true.
She's there in every single women's match.
You got a point there. So the Aces and Eights have had this secret clubhouse that no one can get to until one day Angle just went there. And apparently this clubhouse travels from city to city because they were there again. Hanging out around a table, drinking beer, having a good old time. And Bully told them all that Hulk probably didn't have the balls to fire them, but if he did, he wanted to thank them for standing by him for 9 months and being the baddest MFers he could find. And then he decided to call Brooke, saying he hadn't talked to her all week. She sent him to voicemail, and they made a joke about that. And then he put them on speaker, and they all said hi to her. And they all laughed, and they all drank beer and cackled. And this is what heels should do. Heels should all hang out together and laugh at themselves about how great they are for doing mean things.
And be ugly.
It is amazing, especially by the end of this night. It is amazing how quickly this group went from months and months and months of uselessness to being fantastic.
Yeah, it's called Put Bully Ray in there.
Well, that helped.
Helped? Turn the entire thing around.
It did. We got a rematch from the pay-per-view. It was not the three-way tag match. It was not Kurt Angle and Wes Briscoe. No, it was Robbie E. and Robbie T. Had to be done a second time.
This is for Dave.
It was a rib on Dave. The best part about this was Robbie E. cut a promo saying what happened Sunday was a fluke and things would go differently tonight. And then I think they did the exact same match. So Robbie T won with a spine buster. Then he started pumping his fist before they played the music, by the way. And he danced and he flexed and he did some push-ups and it died a death. Fans were not into it. We saw Sting go into Hulk's office, and then they immediately went to commercial. Aces and Nates were back at their clubhouse. They were upset that the merchandise booth didn't have any of their gear, so they picked a random guy from the program and decided they would beat him up later. So back in Hulk's office, he talked about all that had gone wrong. He had been right about Bully Ray the entire time. He never trusted him. Sting was the one who talked him into trusting him. And now Ray was the champion. The company was held hostage, and Hulk's daughter was stuck in a bad marriage. Sting said, "Don't fire the Aces and Eights. Give me Bully Ray. We need this." Hulk snapped and said, "There is no we." And he tore Sting a new one, and he threw him out of his office. Hulk was awesome here.
This is a great segment.
This was fucking great.
Except the only problem was...
Don't you dare.
What?
I like this segment.
I like the segment a lot, but when I saw it, it was like, okay, so is it Sting versus Bully Ray at Bound for Glory for the title? Because that's the last thing this company needs right now. Sting fighting for the title again, especially with this last year in their contract. I don't know where they're going to go with Sting, but I thought Hogan was awesome. I thought Sting was awesome. I thought the whole thing was awesome, but I'm a little skeptical about where it's going.
Isn't Bound for Glory in November?
Yeah, you don't think this is going to end next month, do you?
Well, no.
It's going to be long term.
Of course not. There's a million ways they could go. I would not just assume they're going to do Sting and Bully Ray in November. They could. Rude and Aries found Sting backstage. They were wearing shirts that read "Dirty Heels."
Yeah.
They made fun of him for being the one who had talked everyone into believing Bully Ray, and it was his fault. The company was where they were now. Said they didn't have a match tonight because Hernandez and Chavo were taken out. So Sting said, "Fine, I'm going to wrestle one of you." And he said this. Rude started very quietly tiptoeing backwards.
Slinked away.
He did, yes. He slinked away, and he left Aries high and dry, and so Sting picked Aries to fight later. They had been plugging AJ Styles' big return. They played his music. He never appeared. Then Bad Influence's music hit, and they came out dressed up like the Road Warriors. Mm-hmm. No shoulder pads, unfortunately, but they had the face paint on. Daniels even face painted Hawk's twin mohawks on his head. Kaz said they were dressed up like the second greatest tag team of all time. Daniels made fun of all their catchphrases. He called themselves the Ring Warriors, the Legion of Boom, and added, "What a tush." So James Storm came out, and he defended LOD, and he challenged one of them to a match. It was James Storm and Chris Daniels, a perfectly fine TV match. Kaz tried to interfere. Storm fought him off and won clean with a backcracker anyway. Then Bad Influence started double-teaming him to death. Fans were chanting for AJ, and he came down the ramp looking a little bit less homeless than he did in the videos. He beat up the bad guys, sent them off, and Storm recovered and stood by his side, and suddenly AJ turned around and dropped him with a lariat too.
Killed him with his lariat.
Yeah. And he stormed up the ramp. So he hates everyone.
So maybe he's going to be facing Bully Ray at Bound for Glory.
That is what I would think, actually. There would be twin storylines converging at that point.
Sure. Unfortunately, they killed off the pay-per-view where, I guess it doesn't matter.
The Angle was walking backstage when the Aces and Eights attacked him and beat him up. It was his picture in the program. Joseph Park came out in a suit. Talked about his big wins over Robbie E. and Joey Ryan. Said that success made him look back at the high points of his life. graduating law school at the top of his class, becoming a partner at Park and Park, and right here, right now, standing in an Impact ring in his hometown of Chicago.
That's right. He's a Chicago boy.
He made a lot of Chicago sports references until Matt Morgan and his shitty music interrupted. He has trimmed his beard a little bit from last week. It's still quite ridiculous, but not quite as ridiculous as it used to be. He buried Hogan for a while. He called Park a joke. I believe he actually at one point called Joe Park a fat hoop. And
I can confirm.
He said Hogan had made a bunch of mistakes, and he, Morgan, was going to start eliminating them, starting with Park. He ordered Park to leave, and Joe acted scared and mad and sad and left. And then Morgan ran down Chicago one more time, and Park returned and said, here in Chicago, we never back down from a fight. And Morgan said, no, not on your time, we'll do it on my time. And he started to leave, and Joe turned his back, and Morgan jumped in from behind and said his time will be next week. So Matt Morgan versus Joe Park on Impact next week. And I should point out there were an unacceptable number of Matt Morgan supporters here in Chicago.
There were a lot of Matt Morgan supporters.
I don't know what happened.
Wonder if Coughlin works at Joe Park's law firm.
He might. I've never asked. He is a Chicago-based lawyer. Back in the clubhouse, Bully Ray cut a promo into the camera, daring Hulk Hogan to fire them, and then vowing to destroy the show. They showed Brooke after the pay-per-view cursing Ray and weeping backstage. And in the main event, Sting and Austin Aries had an awesome match.
Yes, they did. Live.
Aries and Rude both spent a lot of time in the early portion bumping and selling like crazy. Rude was finally ejected. So Aries is running wild, and he's got Sting in his back, and he grabs Sting's legs, and he looks around at the crowd like he's going to do the Scorpion, but then he can't figure it out. He tries to.
It is a very complicated move.
You got to put your leg in the spot and then put his legs over, and he tried 2 or 3 times, and he couldn't get it in the right order, on the right side or something, and finally he stops, and he holds Sting's feet, and he bends over and screams, "How do you do this?" And Sting responded by punching him in the face.
He kicked and Aries went flying.
This is... If you don't like this kind of thing, then you don't like professional wrestling.
Yeah, I don't know why you're listening to this show.
Yes.
If you cannot appreciate this match, then I don't know why you're watching this show.
Yes.
Listening to it.
This is so great.
However, this is a great match.
Went on for a while. Sting, who was, he's in his 50s. He still press slammed Aries, and I realize Aries is very small, but still, come on now. So Aries went for his brainbuster. Sting turned that into the death drop. Aries got to kick out of that. And finally, Sting hit the splash, and he went for the Scorpion, but the aces and eights attacked. So, Bully Ray...
I can't say that Aries was a one-man show, but he was pretty close to a one-man show.
It was, yeah.
Sting looked fine.
Sting was there.
Given Sting's age and how long he's been working and everything like that, and it was live and you can't edit anything, Sting did a hell of a job. But Austin Aries was awesome in this match. He was outstanding. I thought this was a really good match. And then Aces and Eights ran in.
Yeah. So Hulk finally appeared. He came out on stage on crutches. He said a bunch of cliches such as every dog has his day and live by the sword, die by the sword.
The whole storyline was, is Hulk Hogan going to fire the Aces and Eights?
Yeah.
And his answer was no.
That's true. He said, no, that would be too good for you. It would be the coward's way out, he said. So what he said was he was empowering everyone in the locker room to fight the Aces and Eights.
Yes.
I guess that means he wouldn't suspend them. I don't really know what he meant here, but what happened was a bunch of babyfaces ran out.
I think he just meant I'm going to allow a billion men in the ring and not send out security to break it up.
I guess that was it. All right. Because I was wondering how that would be different from any other segment where guys run in. So there was Samoa Joe, there was Magnus, there was Angle, there was Joe Park, Hernandez and Chavo, and Robbie T. And they played Jeff Hardy's music, so he must have been in there somewhere.
He was there. He was the first guy out. And he got stomped on.
Oh, that's right. I saw him later. He didn't have his makeup on, which is why I didn't recognize him. Anyway, so they're having this brawl, and slowly but surely, the Aces and Eights win.
Yeah.
They defeat their opponents.
So will they be fired now?
They are standing.
Hogan's empowerment failed.
Standing tall and proud and victorious for like the first time in this whole damn... Since the very initial attack when they ran roughshod over everyone, they actually seemed intimidating and imposing. They seem like heels.
God for Bully Ray.
And Ray cutting a promo on Hulk, daring him to do something and asking what he was going to do and calling him dad. And Hulk could just stand there on his crutches and be frustrated. This was like watching the episode 4 of Star Wars 4,000 times in a row, and then watching episode 5, The Aces and Eights Strike Back.
Yeah.
They finally got the fucking heat.
That's right. And then it'll be the return of the A Jedi.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
that works.
Yeah, he's going to play Luke. Maybe he's Bully Ray's son. I hadn't thought of that.
I had not either.
Wow. I suppose it's mathematically impossible.
Well, that makes Sting Yoda.
Essentially is, really.
All right.
Got a hell of a match here tonight. I enjoyed this show. I thought it was a good show. Thought it was a good follow-up to Lockdown. I am enjoying Impact every single week. And you know what's funny? I actually, honest to God, look forward to Impact more than any other show during the week.
Oh, totally.
And part of that is just because even though Raw has had a lot of really good segments on it, I, as a fan, taking off my reporter's cap here, which is a Pope hat, actually, I, as a fan, have a really hard time getting excited for Raw because I know it's 3 hours long. It's so long. And I know that Impact is going to be an easy 2 hours, and it's going to, it's not like the old days. It's not a 4-hour show packed into 2 hours. It is a 2-hour show that takes 2 hours.
Yes.
And they slowed it down, and the angles, I mean, listen, it's hard, you know? It's not like the old days. This ain't WWF in the 80s where you have some syndicated TV and then 4 pay-per-views a year. I mean, you got to produce 2 hours of television every single solitary week, and sometimes things happen. Sometimes guys get hurt, whatever. I mean, sometimes there are going to be plot holes. I mean, there are plot holes in WWE. There are plot holes everywhere. But they're trying. That's all I ask. They're trying. And for the most part, the stuff's good. So, big fan of Impact of late. If you haven't been watching Impact, maybe you should give it another shot. It's been a pretty good show for a while now. And as noted, it's only 2 hours once a week. Big positive. All right, I'm done. To the back! Like she'd had memory issues. But instead, when I talked to her on the phone and asked her to explain to me what happened, she goes, well, I was sitting there in bed, and all of a sudden, I heard a loud bang, and I forgot what I'd been thinking about. And it was like, yeah, your head blew up! I forget what I was thinking about, too! Anyway, she turned out fine. So there you go, everybody. Let's do Impact.
Impact was a show. The highlight was the stuff they did with Bully Ray going back to the Aces and Eights history, laying out the storyline from start to finish in hindsight and making everything make sense.
They tried.
They did a great job, really.
Yeah. There were a couple things that was kind of like, all right, that you did your best, but that kind of doesn't make sense. But overall, it's like, I thought the show-long Bully Ray explanation of everything that went down over the last year, I thought it was excellent. And I think that if you took any other storyline in pro wrestling, like take any random WWE storyline over the past year, I think you could probably do this with some of them, but absolutely not all of them. Some of them, if you went back and tried to put the whole thing together, it would just make absolutely no sense whatsoever. So, they're trying very hard. I mean, they're trying very, very hard to lay out a long storyline and do everything in their power to stick to it. And sometimes you have things like, well, the guy was, beaten up unmercifully by Aces and Eights. And, I mean, they did explain it like, I had to take one for the team and that sort of thing. But there were a couple of them where it was kind of like, But overall, I mean, I thought it was an excellent job of they had 3 different segments and that was a good thing too. They didn't just try and do the whole thing start to finish in one 20-minute segment.
Yes.
They had 3 5-minute segments, which yes, I realize it doesn't equal 20 minutes, bear with me. 3 5-minute segments split into different periods of the show, with Bully going back and explaining it. They had a lot of video, and obviously, I mean, there was a lot of stuff that, I mean, you knew it was coming. Like, when Al was missing and D'Lo stepped in and got a job for Wes Briscoe. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that, that at the time that was the plan all along. I'd say probably 85% of it, I think, was the plan all along. And then maybe they had 15% here and there that kind of just came together and they had to explain it. But a lot of this stuff, when you look back at the clips they had, it's like, yep, he did give a mean look right there when Hogan buried him. Yep, he definitely, that makes sense right there. So maybe if TNA puts up a YouTube video of all three packages back to back, I'll put it up on the front page tomorrow. But if you didn't see it, it was very well done.
So they showed the Aces and Eights killing everyone on the roster last week. Kennedy asked if anyone could save them, and out limped Hulk Hogan on one crutch in 2013. The only man who could save us from the Aces and Eights. He said something along the lines of how the Aces and Eights had killed everyone last week, but they killed these four guys the least. It was Samoa Joe, Magnus, Kurt Angle, and Jeff Hardy. He told them he needed the belt off Bully Ray. He needed one of them to do it.
Did he actually say that he killed these four men the least?
It was something honest. It was very close to that. It was not one of Hulk's better moments. But the gist of this was these guys went down fighting harder than anyone else. But he acknowledged they had been beaten down. So, after weeks of burying Jeff when he was the champion, now suddenly Hulk's turning to him as a savior. So Jeff proposed, not Hulk, Jeff proposed a four-way tonight with the winner getting the first shot at Bully Ray, and Hulk agreed. That was it. We had Rude and Aries versus Chavo and Hernandez. It was a fun match. The one more benefit to leaving the Impact Zone we have not noted before, at least in Chicago, they had an entrance ramp going all the way down to the ring. And that means that Hernandez could do his scary dive from the ramp over the rope into the ring, which is much safer than doing it from the ring to the floor. So that's a giant thumbs up. And the babyfaces made their comeback, and Chavo was going to hit the frog splash when Kazarian ran down and took the ref, and Daniel shoved Chavo off the ropes, and Aries pinned Chavo while holding the trunks, and then Bad Influence hit the ring and laid out the champs and held up the belts, so apparently these three teams are just still feuding. We had a video package for the X Division laying out their new rules. There's a 230-pound weight limit.
230 pounds. Because, 20% of the roster weighs more than that?
Yeah. And all X Division matches will now be three-ways.
That is dumb.
I used to... I was always surprised, and there probably has been, but I was always surprised there was not some indie that didn't have a three-way championship. But the idea that I always had there was that's a show that the fans would see, perhaps once a month. Having a three-way on every show every week?
Yeah.
Bad idea.
I mean, the question is, let's say you get two guys that actually are over and get hot, but you can't do a singles match because that's against the new rules.
That's also true.
You got to throw a third guy in there.
Yes.
Not to mention that, yes, this match actually did end up pretty good, but at the beginning of the match, it was no good. Because you had three guys doing a lot of stuff and spots were messed up here and there. It did pick up and turn into a good match, but the first 2 or 3 minutes was a disaster. And then I was really thinking, this is really what we need. Every three-way is going to be a disaster.
Yeah. Kenny King, who was the champion, he cut a promo about how he didn't care about fighting two men. He just meant there'd be two funerals. He also worked in a plug for 5 Hour Energy. Kenny King is pretty great.
5 Hour Energy stuff works. I should also say the rules are that every match is a three-way, and whoever gets a pinfall or submission is a champion. So basically, you're also, at least in some cases, going to be devaluing your title because a champion isn't going to be beaten.
Yeah. So he defended his belt here against Sanjay Dutt and Zema Ion. And yeah, there was a blown spot in the first minute, and I don't think this show was live. They did not edit that out. And it was really goofy early, and just a bunch of moves. And they were smart enough to save the biggest moves for the end, so the crowd was into it. And Sanjay hit his moonsault foot stomp on Zema Ion. Then he turned around, and King hit Sanjay with a springboard blockbuster and pinned him. So because Sanjay Dutt was pinned, they said he was, quote, out of the title picture.
Yeah, that's the other part of the rule. If you get pinned in a three-way, you're out of the title picture. Which I guess means you can't be in a three-way for a while.
I guess Zema Ion is still in the title picture? Will he be in the title match next week?
Probably, and they put a new guy in.
I see.
I don't know.
I don't either. Brooke Hogan arrived at the building. She refused to talk about Hulk or Bully Ray. She said she was just there to run the Knockouts division. We had the first segment with Bully Ray explaining his storyline. They showed him losing a number one contenders match to Jeff Hardy, Christ knows when, but he said losing that match is when he had hatched his entire plan. Said he had fought the Aces and Eights several times, all part of a plan to ingratiate himself to Hulk and Brooke. After this, Sting went to Hulk. He demanded a match with Bully Ray again. Hulk told him to do what he does best, sit in the rafters and keep your mouth shut. That was a great line. Taryn Terrell came out for a promo.
Yeah.
ECW Tiffany with a live mic in the ring. Honestly, it was not as funny as the classic ECW Tiffany moments, but
part of it was because, like a complete goddamn idiot, somehow when I was cleaning off my DVR, I erased Impact. So we ended up watching a version on the internet, which actually was a very convenient Impact internet version because all the commercials were cut out.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, as the show went on, the audio and video became more and more out of sync. So I didn't get Tiffany in her full excellence.
She did have lines about how she was supposed to control the chaos, not contribute to it. But then Gail had put her hands on her and she was forced to retaliate, and now she knew it was time to face the consequences.
I love Tiffany.
So
I'm gonna miss that outfit. I hope her wrestling outfit is like the stripes and the short tights.
I suspect the shorts are not going anywhere. So Gail came out, said she was there to enjoy watching Taryn get fired. Finally, Brooke came down, and she said she loved Taryn, but as vice president of the Knockout, she had to be fair, and thus she had to terminate Taryn Terrell as referee. And Gail was ecstatic. Brooke then said she had more news. She announced that she had signed Taryn to the roster, which meant she could get physical with anyone she wanted, wherever she wanted.
Yeah.
I guess this is in TNA wrestlers' contracts.
Does that mean fucking, or what does that mean?
Fighting. You can be violent with someone whenever you please. You can attack someone with no repercussions. So she did. She speared her, and Gail ran away, and Taryn chased after her, and Brooke turned her back to the ring to watch them. This is a mistake, because Bully Ray came through the crowd, and he got right behind her, and she turned around and saw him, and he started pointing to his ring, saying, "Till death do us part." And Brooke said she hated him and stormed to the back, and one fan very loudly called Bully a sissy.
You're a sissy!
Yes. More history of Bully Ray. There was a clip from what seems like years ago of Devon and Garrett offering to help Hulk saying they had his back, and he rejected them. He said, "It's okay, we got this," and sent him packing.
You know, when you watch this back,
yeah,
God, what a dick Hulk is.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, there's many examples.
He's just turning down guys left and right, burying them.
Wes Briscoe couldn't get a job. His dad and uncle broke Hogan in.
It almost made you sympathetic to Aces and Eights when you watch this.
Mr. Anderson got his ass kicked by the Aces and Eights, and TNA left him laying under a crate.
Yeah.
No one went to check on him. They showed D'Lo his part of getting Wes hired and making sure
that was one thing about the deal. It's like, I understand that like a great heel has a logical justification for his bad actions, but usually it's like a warped justification. These were not warped justifications. Hogan's like, "Come on, Wes, what are you doing sitting in the room with these stars? What are you thinking?" I'm like, wow, what a cock.
Matt Morgan versus Joe Park. Morgan was playing the bully and beating him up for a long time. He missed the carbon footprint and crotched himself. Park made his comeback, but he missed his middle rope splash. And then Morgan hit a carbon footprint for the win. And he hit it he hit his finisher, but he managed to fall down at the same time.
Yeah, it was very astonishing.
It was a very Matt Morgan moment. Mike Tenay called AJ Styles down to the ring for an interview. And Tenay's first question was, I forget exactly what he said, but basically he accused AJ of doing alcohol and drugs.
Yeah.
It was a terrible first question for an interview. Taz jumped to his feet to save the day. He offered AJ a chance to join Aces and Eights. Before AJ could answer, James Storm came down. AJ wouldn't even turn to face him. He just kept his back to him the whole time. And Storm ran him down for a bit, made fun of him, basically dared him to hit him, finally got in his face. Darren hit him again. Crowd was chanting, hug it out, which I don't think is the reaction they were looking for. And finally, AJ left without saying anything. We had the final Bully Ray segment where he admitted, including clips of his own wedding, how, yes, he had taken some shots, he had taken a beating, but he knew if he got his ass kicked right in front of Hulk's face, then Hulk would trust him. And he showed the exact moment when he looked in Hulk's eye and shook his hands, and that's when he knew Hulk was a sucker.
There ain't a better way.
Without taking a beating?
I mean, I like that they explained it, but,
It's, hey, you just say he's the brightest guy in the company.
I mean, couldn't he have cut his own head and then just laid in the back and they could have put some tables on him and he could have pretended he was beat up? Did he have to actually take a beating?
Yes, because it had to be right in front of Hulk's face.
I see.
He said that.
Yeah. It's fine.
And we had the main event four-way. Joe, Magnus, Angle, and Hardy. My first reaction to this was this show did not need 2 multi-man matches.
But this was great.
This is a lot better than the other one, especially by the end. There was one point where they were doing chants in the crowd of "We want Angle" and "We want Joe," which would be fine, except Magnus and Hardy were in the ring wrestling at the time.
And I like how they're chanting, "We want Joe, we want Hardy," and then Taz is like, "A lot of support for Aces and Eights."
Yeah,
I was like, "What are you talking about?"
Taz is still doing. He's doing bad comedy.
I like Taz. I don't care what anybody says. I am always entertained by Taz.
So Jeff ran wild with twist of fates on everybody, and Angle ran wild suplexing everybody, and Angle went for the ankle lock on Joe. Joe kicked him off. Angle and Magnus collided and both fell out of the ring, and then Joe was still on his back after kicking Angle off, and Hardy appeared out of nowhere, hit him with a senton and pinned him for the title shot. That was that. And I really don't have any complaints about this show, except for the Bully Ray stuff. I don't think I'll remember anything in a week, but it was fine.
I think it was a very good main event. I thought the finish was great. And, I like this show. All I can say about TNA is it's not like it's the best show in the history of the world, but I like that they're really trying. And they're trying to do everything right. They're trying to book, they're trying to do long-term storylines. They're trying to make everything make sense. Obviously, there are numerous cooks in the kitchen. Sometimes things are going to not be the best that they can. Sometimes things are going to be a little wacky. Sometimes someone's going to change their mind about something. Sometimes someone's going to get hurt. Sometimes somebody's contract's going to expire because they didn't bother to see when it expired. But they're trying. And slow and steady. It may not win the race, but it's making for a much better TNA product. So I give a thumbs up to Impact. Good show. So there you go. All right, everybody. To the back! Let's go, Impact.
Jeff Hardy came out, said he was number 1 contender. He was going to call somebody out for open fight night, but the Aces and Eights interrupted. And Bully Ray was running him down, and Anderson interrupted him. Said Jeff Hardy's had another second chance. He's already had 57 chances. He won't go away. He keeps burning buildings down, but as long as he's selling merchandise, they'll keep him on top. He talked for a long time, and finally Jeff hit him. The gang all beat him up, and Magnus and Angle and Samoa Joe and Eric Young ran out to make the save. And the Aces and Eights, they still have the numbers advantage, but they actually backed down this time. And Hardy said he was calling out Anderson for the main event tonight.
It's pretty good. I think it went a little bit long. I think there was a woman trying to give him the, let's rap sign. And I don't mean like a rap song. WRAP. Apparently there was a typo in the newsletter this week that you didn't correct, Vinny, and people were just completely outraged.
Where was this?
Apparently, write, as in I write a book, was spelled RIGHT, and this was cause for scandal.
You know what's funny? I was just reading something else I wrote 6 months ago, and I made the same mistake.
That's weird.
Huh. I'll have to watch that in the future.
Well, I mean, I must have made the mistake originally.
Huh. Maybe you made it correctly, and I fixed it by making it wrong.
That is very possible.
Yeah. Chavo and Hernandez were hanging out backstage.
This was fake.
The only way I can describe this, and especially they came out to the ring this more talking too, what Chavo was doing was he was acting like a boring person who was trying to act exciting and failing. So it just came out weird and fake and phony.
Is pro wrestling the only... I mean, do they do this on normal television shows where you have two people that behave in ways that real people would never in a million years behave? I did not buy one single solitary second of this meeting between Hernandez and Chavo Guerrero Jr.
Yeah. Point is, they called out bad influence. For a while, it was just your basic tag match, but the place is going apeshit. Just nuts. Hernandez, during his comeback, he managed to hit a double backbreaker on both heels, and there were people in the crowd jumping up and down with glee. So Cass and Daniels kept trying to get their feet on the ropes for pins and getting caught, and finally they repeated the finish from last week where Chavo got shoved off the top and got pinned. This time he kicked out, and then when Daniels tried Angel's Wings, Hernandez hit him with a slingshot clothesline, and Chavo hit a frog splash for the win. Hell of a match by the end, and they announced also beforehand that this was a top contenders match, which I'm sure pissed off every other team in TNA.
I enjoyed this match. This was a great match.
Yeah.
This was a great match.
Taryn Terrell cut a backstage promo about how excited she was to wrestle. She was essentially topless.
Yep. Tatas all over the place. Biscuits.
Biscuits. So, Raw and SmackDown have been doing those WWE factoids that drive Dave Meltzer crazy for years now. Impact's doing them too. They call them Instafacts.
Yeah. They should have called them Imp Facts.
So, Taryn Terrell came out to wrestle. She has gear. It's pretty much just a bikini.
I loved it. I won't lie.
I
won't lie.
I will concede. It was flattering.
I was sad she was getting rid of the ref outfit, but I was wrong.
I was flattering. The best thing is, she didn't have knee pads or wrist tape or even wrestling boots. She had like sneakers. She just looked like a girl at the beach.
Great.
A particularly hot girl at the beach, granted, but so she called out Gail, and it was funny because she got through this promo, and frankly, it was a wrestling promo. There was really not much to make fun of. So they start playing Gail's music, and like 2 notes in, Taryn starts immediately calling her out. Where are you, Gail? Come on out. She has no patience this
No
woman.
patience.
So Gail came out.
Maybe she didn't realize they play music before people come out.
Or perhaps she interpreted the music as a sign of Gail being afraid. It's Gail's entrance music. She's about to enter. Just wait. So Gail said somebody else hates you too, and it was Tara, and they ended up both beating her up. And Velvet Sky came out to make the save, thus threatening a Velvet Sky Taryn Terrell tag team.
Hey, at least they're wrestling on the same team and not against each other.
That means at least one of them must be in the ring at all times.
Yeah.
So they were backstage, and Velvet tried to cut a promo, and Taryn saw Gail and attacked her again. They're doing Gut Check next week, so they did a hype video for it, running down all the stars Gut Check has made. Most of whom had never been seen on TV again, and one of the people they showed was Joey Ryan, who actually was rejected on Gut Check.
Yeah.
This came off like an invitation. Like I was going to say, I thought by the end of this, they'd say, send in your resume and $500 to this address. But no. Gut Check next week is, they already have the 2 competitors. It's Adam Pearce and Magno. And they were there. They said nothing. They had a silent stare down.
It was like an instant.
Yeah. There was a man with a mustache and a mullet on screen. And it actually, by later, it would be even more astounding. Sting was there shouting about Sting, but I don't give a shit. In 2013, there was a man with a mullet and mustache on television.
Yeah, dude, this guy has been, it's the head of Atlas Security. He's been around since like the mid-90s.
And he hasn't changed.
No, not one single bit.
When you say been around since, you mean frozen in a block of ice and unthawed.
It may have been.
Is he aware he has a mullet and mustache?
I'm sure he is, because he appears to dye it.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that later.
Work is put into this look.
Yeah, yes. Hulk Hogan and Jeff Hardy had a meeting. Hulk was, again, after weeks of burying Hardy as champion, he's now putting him over like $1 million and begging him to save the company and fix all his mistakes. And he said he was going to let Jeff pick the stipulations for his match with Ray. And suddenly Sting's music began to play. And Hogan looked around and said, "Is that Sting's music? Shouldn't the president of the company know Sting's theme song?"
You'd think. Yeah. Well, he was asking because he didn't want Sting to be there, and Sting was there.
Yeah. So Sting came out. He ran down Bully Ray for a bit, but then said he was trying to get a meeting with Hulk, and so to get a meeting, he was calling Hulk out. So Hulk came out, got in the ring without crutches, limped circles around Sting. Sting said he was going to try to apologize one more time. Hulk was having none of it. He lit into Sting. He blamed Sting for everything, all the troubles going on in the company. It was all Sting's fault, all entirely on his shoulders. Sting said, no, you're the GM. You made the decision. You have to take responsibility for this. And Hulk admitted that, yes, he had walked his daughter down the aisle for this man. He had put Ray in the title match. He had put Ray in a cage match. And he was tired of hearing about it. He ordered Sting out of the ring. Sting said, "Make me." Hulk tore his shirt open. And the security dude started dragging Sting away. And this is where I realized that the man is not just having a mullet and a mustache. He has a mullet and a mustache and frosted tips. Mm-hmm. He has dyed the ends of his mullet.
I am on Freaking Awesome Network. There's a thread here about Atlas Security. It says, Atlas Security sucks. I went to the baseball show last night and was just wondering if they were that terrible all the time. Rude to the fans, screaming at them for no good reason, etc. I hope Dixie realizes small stuff like that can ruin a show experience and can make you lose potential repeat customers. And then this person says, Atlas has always had a bad reputation, even back in the ECW days. I didn't have a problem with them during my encounters, but know of several people and friends who cannot stand them. I know I have heard stories of them telling fans not to give WWE talent stuff to get signed, even when the wrestlers are cool with it. I don't really know anything about Atlas Security. I know the guy in charge is Ronnie Lang. I believe that's your buddy with the mullet.
And the mustache.
I'm just baffled that, I guess because they were security for ECW, TNA has decided we must hire them.
And fly them around the country.
There's no local security group that would do this probably for a hell of a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
I mean, is Atlas Security like, I don't know. I don't get it. I've never got the Atlas Security thing. Like, because they did ECW, they must be used for all wrestling events around the country. I mean, it's a wrestling show. You know, I didn't think that there was like a great like deep security secrets that only Atlas Security was aware of to handle folks at wrestling shows. But hey, maybe they're the best there is at this job. But anyway, I believe that's the fella.
Yeah. Well, I was deeply fascinated by him. But when I was able
He's been on TV forever, all over the place.
He was. I don't pay attention clearly. He was prominent tonight, and I was able to look past him. It was difficult, but I found a way. And when you just looked at Sting and Hogan, goddamn, this segment was great.
Oh yeah,
Hulk Hogan is the best bitter old man I've seen in years.
Well, he's
a bitter old man. Still, a lot of people cannot play themselves the way Hulk Hogan is performing. I know what you're thinking.
I'm not thinking anything.
All right.
Mostly thinking about this guy's mullet.
It's fantastic.
I have a picture here that I found on the internet of this Ronnie Lang fella. And I know this picture was taken in ECW, but I cannot for the life of me figure out who he's standing next to. But suffice to say that aside from obviously dyeing his hair and beard, he looks exactly the same in this photograph as he does today. So yes, he has not changed his look since the mid-90s, Vinny.
I hope he never does. Ruin things for me. Matt Morgan confronted Sting backstage and said he was just another Hogan mistake. James Storm came out. He called out AJ. AJ appeared in the crowd. Storm said he'd been in AJ's shoes. He had once lost and come up short in the big match, and he didn't whine and cry about it. He just got in the ring and did his job. He offered AJ two choices. You can drink some beer and we can talk this out, or we can come down and fight about it. It's up to you. And then before AJ could do anything, Doc, Wes Briscoe, and Garrett Bischoff hit the ring to beat up James Storm. AJ just walked away. Wanted no part of working with these men. But Eric Young and Kurt Angle ran down to make the save, and then Angle caught him out for a 6-man. And here was where the show fell off a cliff. When this show ended, even though I realized the main event was pretty good, I thought this was a really bad episode of Impact. And now that we've gone back over the show segment by segment and gone through my notes, really, it was just this match. This match lasted about 9 years.
It was a long match.
They beat up James Storm forever. None of it was particularly exciting. The most notable thing about the first portion of this match was how amazingly terrible Wes Briscoe's hair is.
Oh, God.
Apparently, there's no conditioner.
Ronnie Lang has a better look than Wes Briscoe.
Absolutely. Ronnie Lang looks like he takes care of himself. Like, at least he has a stylist. I don't know if style is the right word.
he's yeah.
Wes Briscoe, man. So
it felt like a show that like a match fell apart, or they timed it out wrong, or like they just suddenly realized, oh shit, we need you guys to go 19 minutes with 3 hot tags.
Yes.
Now, granted, it didn't go quite that long and didn't have 3 hot tags, but that's kind of what it felt like.
So
it was like a bad match. It was just
it's
boring.
Long and boring, yes. So finally, Angle ran wild, and he suplexed everyone, and he hit an angle slam, and Garrett tried to hit him with a chain, but Kurt ducked and hit the ankle lock, and then West came up behind him and schoolboyed him and held the tights for the pin. So, bad guys won.
Do you know, by the way, did you hear who is inducting Bob Backlund into the Hall of Fame?
I saw that it was announced, although I did not look it up yet.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, Bob Backlund.
Is it Sheiky?
Bob Backlund was a multi-year WWE champion, twice in fact. Sold out Madison Square Garden many, many times.
Yeah.
Dropped the title to Sheiky Baby, who then lost it to Hogan. Who do you think is going to induct Bob Backlund? And by the way, for reference, Bruno Sammartino will be inducted by his longtime friend, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Mick Foley will be inducted by Terry Funk. Who do you think? Think back historically on his WWE career. Who would you have induct Bob Backlund into the WWE Hall of Fame?
Arnold Skoland?
I will give you 2 more guesses.
I said Sheiky. Billy Graham.
I will give you 1 more guess.
Supposed to wrestle a lot. I don't actually know that much about Bob Backlund, I won't lie. Bret Hart.
Inducting Robert Backlund into the 2013 WWE Hall of Fame in Madison Square Garden will be multi-time WWE diva Maria Menounos.
I had actually heard about this. Like she's a giant Backlund fan.
I don't know why. I just find this so hilarious. Maria Menounos?
Yes.
I mean, nothing against her. She's a lovely woman. I will be happy to watch that induction. But I just find that to be hilarious. So there you go. Proceed.
All right. Where were we? So back at the Aces and Eights Clubhouse, which started in Orlando and then went to Chicago and is now in Arkansas, Ray was congratulating the fellows for the 6-man tag they had just won. And he started to give Mr. Anderson a pep talk. And we talked earlier about how Chavo was unbelievable. Mr. Anderson attempted to act crazy and angry, saying he was going to lose his frickin' mind repeatedly.
Yeah.
And he left.
I thought he did pretty well here.
I thought he was phony. Frickin'!
Well, what do you expect him to say?
Just mind. Don't say anything in that space. Jerry Borash plugged the All X Division pay-per-view. And when I say plugged, I'm giving him way too much credit. He did not say a single match on the show except that it's going to happen. And it's on a Sunday. So, excuse me, no, it's on a Friday.
Friday, yeah.
2 weeks, yeah. So he explained that last week, since Sanjay Dutt had been pinned in the X Division 3-way, he was out of title contention. To get back into title contention, He had to win another three-way next week with Mason Andrews, who is Scorpio Sky, and Petey Williams. And Petey Williams, on Impact for the first time in 4 years, proceeded to look into the camera and flex his pecs silently.
Yep. Big return.
That was it.
Big return.
Main event was Jeff Hardy versus Mr. Anderson. You know, there's a move out there called the Alabama Slam. It's called this because Bob Holly, who was from Alabama, used this move. And
who just worked for TNA, by the way.
Indeed. And he's also been noted by a lot of guys, including Mick Foley, who put it in print as one of the stiffest dudes you'd ever, I was going to say ever want to work, but you'd ever have to work. He hit guys really, really hard. Bob Holly, in all his career, never, ever, ever Alabama slammed someone as hard as Mr. Anderson did in this match. He destroyed Jeff with this move.
Mm-hmm.
It was no good. Somehow Jeff survived, and it actually turned into a pretty good TV main event. The ref got bumped, and Garrett ran down and gave Anderson a hammer. And before he could use it, though, Hardy got it, and Hardy didn't care anymore. He just started whacking guys with a hammer for the DQ.
I was baffled. You can't beat Mr. Anderson to set up a match with the heavyweight champion of the world.
I guess not.
I just couldn't understand that. Hit the twist of fate and then beat the hell out of him with the hammer.
Yeah. So instead, he got DQ'd, and then he started beating up with chairs and ladders and tables, and Anderson tried to come back, and Hardy cut him off, and he was going to put him through the table when Bully Ray came out to make the save, and he dragged Anderson to safety, and right there, in 1 minute, or in one spot, the Aces and Eights, true to their word, were better friends to Mr. Anderson than anyone in TNA ever was. You recall? He joined the Aces and Eights because he had taken a savage beating and his own friends had left him for dead. As soon as he joined the Aces and Eights, they got his back. They are, in fact, loyal. There's no doubt about that. So Ray saves him here, and Hardy announces it's going to be Full Metal Mayhem for their title match, which is essentially TLC. And, yeah, as noted, it was
tables, ladders, chairs, and stairs.
He threw in stairs. Stairs are also legal.
Yeah.
So, yeah. There's, aside from that one bad match, this is a perfectly fine show.
I liked the main event. I liked how they set up the TLC match.
I like the Hogan promo.
Very good timing for. It was like they were live, but it wasn't rushed. It was like he got a chair, he beat him with the chair. He got a table, put him on the table. He got a ladder, set up the ladder, and then Bully ran down and saved Mr. Anderson. I hope they do a rematch and Jeff Hardy beats him next week. I still don't. Actually, I can find out right now. Spoiler alert, everybody. We got next week's matches. Let's find out if Jeff Hardy actually beats Mr. Anderson or if, in fact, they did a DQ for no good reason. Looks like they didn't do it. So I don't get it. I don't get why you couldn't beat Mr. Anderson, but that's just me. Maybe it's because Vinny complained so much that the Ace and Eights can never win.
I suppose so.
It's your fault, you idiot.
I apologize.
By the way, somebody, speaking of your fault, we were just on the show Tuesday, I believe it was. We played that, or when was it? When did I play that audio? It was actually today on the Todd Martin show. The Undertaker and Kane, when they made appearance on America's Most Wanted. Do you remember this?
Undertaker and Kane on America's Most Wanted?
Yeah,
I have no idea of this.
Undertaker basically, in character, cut a promo on a drunk driver, saying he would be brought to justice. I swear to God.
I do not recall this.
It is on the Todd show today. Anyway, as coincidence would have it, the day that Todd and I talked about The Undertaker and Kane on America's Most Wanted, America's Most Wanted, rest in peace. It was announced Lifetime canceled the show. They announced that yesterday after Todd and I did the show. Isn't that a wacky coincidence?
It's very strange.
All right, everybody.